something has gone a little bit weird with the font formatting today, so things will be randomly italicized. Just for fun, Tampa keeping it fun. You can find worksheets that are relevant to our session today at iterable.com/DSTPA. DSTPA is our hashtag for this event today. This is actually my first time giving a presentation like this on September 11th, and it felt important to me to just take a second to acknowledge that and the people that we lost in New York and DC and Pennsylvania, and the first responders who are still not getting adequate health care, and the sacrifices that they made as well. This is actually a photograph of the memorial in my neighborhood in Weehawken, New Jersey, overlooking New York City. So just felt like that's something that we should take a moment for today. So if you do go to iterable.com/DSTPA, you're going to see a form there. If you want to get an instant download of these slides right now, you can fill that out. You'll also be added to my mailing list. You'll get invited to webinars and other events. But you don't have to fill out the form to access the worksheets. They're all the way down at the bottom there. And this is an interactive PDF, so it looks a little something like this, a little information about me. And then on page 3, this is a form that you can actually fill out if you were to save this to your hard drive and keep notes here on page 3, like the ideas that you get today that you think you may want to act on. You can keep a running list of them on page 3, and then later today in this workshop, we're going to talk about what you can do with that list to prioritize it and make a plan for implementing it. So hi, I'm Jen. Nice to meet you, Tampa. This is my first time ever in Tampa. Thank you. And I'm from the South, and I love coming to the South for these events because people are super friendly. So far, I've discovered that my flat iron is useless here. And I missed a Lizzo concert last night. Yes. Did you go? No. Oh, did everybody miss it? Did anybody make it? No. So you should know, I just took a DNA test, and it turns out I'm 100% that geek. #EmailGeek. I'm the Director of Strategic Insights and Evangelism at a company called Iterable. Iterable is a cross-channel campaign management solution. What that means is we send email along with mobile messaging, a little bit of social remarketing, a little bit of direct mail too. I got to invent my own job at Iterable. I get to talk about email marketing strategy all day, every day. I write about it, I talk about it, I consult on it. I have the best job in the world. I hope my title impresses you because I made that up too. I am so enthusiastic about email marketing that I'm also the president and co-founder of Women of Email. Any members here? Got a couple. Women of Email is a 501c3 nonprofit association for women whose careers touch the email marketing specialty. Membership is free. It is fully funded by donations and completely manned or womaned by volunteers, including myself. It is my passion. If you look on Facebook for our community, definitely recommend that you sign up and get involved. There are nearly 5,000 women who are part of the Facebook community. We are approaching 4,000 official association members in over 40 countries on 6 continents. So lots of enthusiastic ladies. I am looking for female email marketers in Antarctica because that's the only continent we haven't conquered yet. If you have referrals, let me know. Also, I'm a big fan of Twitter. If you go to a conference and you're not on conference Twitter, did you even go to a conference? So feel free to tweet at me your favorite takeaways, silly photographs. I make bizarre faces when I speak. I only know this because I see the photographs myself, so the weirder, the better. Definitely post those. Oh, and I've got stickers. If anybody wants a Women of Email sticker for yourself or for a colleague, I've got a big stash down here, so just meet me down in this area during one of the breaks. So this is me in the year 2002, the year I sent my first email marketing campaign. Also the year I cut some very, very unfortunate bangs, inspired by this issue of Entertainment Weekly magazine. I did not get the Penelope Cruz quite right. But it was the year that I sent my first email marketing campaign, and this is it. I am a digital hoarder. I save everything. And last summer I was moving and I had this huge tower computer, and I tried to rip the files onto an external hard drive in case there was anything good on there that I'd want to save, and my goodness, there was a gold mine. There was this, my first email marketing campaign. As you can see, this is an unbelievable example of email design and strategy. This is approximately what it would have looked like on a CRT monitor running Windows XP and Microsoft Outlook, which is what most of our audience would have been using. Here's a close-up version of that. So I was working at a nonprofit trade association in Huntersville, North Carolina, and we had a trade show coming up, and somebody said, "I've got a great idea. Why don't we email our members and invite them to register for our trade show?" And we were like, "Whoa, that's a great idea." They're like, "Jen, you know HTML computer stuff, so do it." And I kind of did. I created this on Microsoft FrontPage. Does anybody remember FrontPage? Yes. As you can see, it's a little busy. But the strategy is not terrible. We actually segmented this for 3 unique audiences. We didn't even know the word segmentation, but we knew intuitively that it made sense to send a relevant message. So I am proud that I was segmenting in 2002, but something else that's interesting about this is that there's no unsubscribe link. Does anyone know why? Canned spam was introduced in 2003. This was 2002. It didn't occur to us that anybody would want to unsubscribe from this magnificent campaign. Anyway, this is how I wake up now every day. I have gotten really enthusiastic about this channel. I think it's a wonderful challenge. It's kind of like a puzzle. How am I going to make this work? You know, we don't have standardization across email clients. We don't really know what people are going to respond to. There's like a deliverability Illuminati trying to decide whether we get into the inbox or not. So it's hard. It's really hard to do, and to me, that makes it fun. So I do wake up with this face just about every morning, including today. All right, so what are we going to do today? We are going to talk about first the state of email marketing. Then we're going to talk about a pretty exciting trend. I've got some new content for you about humanization. This is the direction I see email and cross-channel strategy going. It's kind of the new personalization, so I'll explain that. Then we're going to talk about how to identify the gaps in your email marketing program. Then we're going to have a break. We're going to have a 15-minute coffee break, run out, grab some caffeine, come back here, and we'll kick things back off again at 10 o'clock. Then we're going to talk about welcome campaigns and re-engagement campaigns, because those are often your lowest hanging fruit, areas of opportunity for any email program that needs to be expanded or optimized. Then we're going to talk about A/B testing. And I've got some controversial opinions about A/B testing, so you'll be hearing a point of view you probably have not heard before. Then we're going to have another 15-minute break. That's the lunch break. You've got 15 minutes to grab and go. Run out the door, get your boxed lunch, bring it back, and we'll kick things off again at 11:45. We're going to talk about personalization opportunities and how to prioritize those. Then we're going to talk about iteration in email. Often we get an idea in our head of something we want to do, and it's a very complex, sophisticated, mature strategy, and we kind of shrug and we're like, "Oh, I just don't have the resources for that." So how do you think about these problems and scale back to something you can do and move toward that goal and making a case for that? Then we're going to talk about the future of email, some trends that I've been observing, where things are going. And if we have time at the end, and I think we do because of the way that our timing is set up today, we're going to talk about 5 newsletter trends right at the end. But also, throughout the day, we're going to talk about how best practices are a big heaping load of BS. You probably came here looking for some advice on how to do your job. You know, I need to make an onboarding campaign, and it needs to have 5 touches, and so on and so forth. I am not going to give you that advice. I'm going to tell you how to think about solving those problems for yourself and how to challenge the best practices that are out there. And you are all welcome at any point to just raise a hand or even yell, because I can't really see everybody here because of these bright lights. But if you, hey, Jen, you're not following something I'm saying, you have an immediate question, you want some clarity on something, I don't mind if you just interrupt me, shout out at any time. All right, so we're going to kick things off. A little more explanation about these marketer misconceptions and BS best practices. Because best practices are... The nice folks at Digital Summit ask me not to swear, so I'm not going to. But if you do want to see me swear, there's a video of it on the Iterable website. What I like to do in each city is to personalize this BS bull, give him a name, because he's going to visit with us throughout the morning. So if we can think of a name that is Tampa specific, so we can make this the Tampa BS bull, what would be an excellent name for this guy?
Gaspar.
Okay, I heard Gaspar. Gaspar? What does that mean? What is Gasparilla? It's a pirate?
Yes.
Gaspar?
Yes.
And then what was the other suggestion? The Buccaneers. So we've got Gaspar or Buck. All right, who likes Gaspar? Who likes Buck? Oh, it was kind of close, but it looked like Gaspar won. All right, is that a rivalry? Okay, so nobody's mad at each other. Because that happened to me in Texas. It got heated. I think my favorite name so far has been Blucifer. That was Denver. Okay, so we've got Gaspar, the BS best practice bull. I might forget that throughout the morning, so if I blank out, just be like, it's Gaspar. And I thank you in advance for that. All right, so best practices are BS, presented by Gaspar, the BS bull. So as we talk through best practices and advice today, and even when you're reading articles, watching webinars, attending sessions like this, I want you to always think to yourself about best practices. Why is this a best practice? How did this come to be? Should it still be a best practice? The conditions that caused it to become a best practice, do they still exist? Did they ever exist? And also, if I implement this best practice, is this going to advance my business objectives? Is this going to serve my audience? Or is this maybe a big steaming pile of Gaspar BS? Benchmarks and studies, we are data-driven people. We're digital marketers. We love data points. We live for data points. We're using data points to demonstrate our successes every single day, and we love for others in the industry to give us data points that can help guide us toward making the best decisions. But here's the problem. A lot of those studies, a lot of those blog articles, a lot of those reports, they're not very accurate. They're not created using very scientific methodologies. They're not from reliable sources. There's little bits of information that are not included. They're not normalizing data. They're not necessarily making apples to apples comparisons. So everybody loves these studies, and Iterable has our own studies. And they're great sources of inspiration, but they're not the end-all, be-all, and they're not necessarily an example of what you can expect if you were to make the changes that they suggest that you should make. So think critically about those data points as well. There are a couple of sources of studies that are more reliable than others. For instance, Forrester or Gartner are reliable sources, but if you were to see some kind of a benchmark report from an email service provider, it's a great source of inspiration. It's not the end-all, be-all, and comparing your performance against the benchmark numbers is not necessarily the best idea. All right, so we're going to come back to Gaspar a little bit later. We're going to kick things off with the state of email marketing. It's still not dead, y'all. Yay. We get to stay employed. We keep hearing email's dead, email's dead. This has been going on for nearly a decade now. And it's because, well, first of all, Zuckerberg said he was going to kill it back in 2010 when Facebook Messenger was being introduced. And there were a lot of assumptions that millennials were not going to utilize email. Gen Z was not going to utilize email. And the Wall Street Journal was among the publications that said, email's dead or dying, it's going away. But then they introduced this article in January. It's cool, it's the hot new channel. So congratulations for being like the coolest geeks at all of Digital Summit. And as it turns out, millennials love email. Contrary to popular belief, millennials are not bulldozing digital marketing with a bazooka full of avocado toast. Right? They're utilizing email more than any other demographic. And I know it's true because all of these headlines say so. A former colleague of mine was quoted in the Harvard Business Review about a study about email marketing, and this was her quote: "Millennials check email more than any other age group. Nearly half can't even use the bathroom without checking it." It's true, isn't it? Maybe more than half. So what about Gen Z? I don't know, what do you think? Email gonna go away? Lauren McDonald is a friend of mine now, but previously was someone I just admired as a thought leader in the email industry, and he actually attends a lot of these Digital Summit events. I'm not sure if he's on the agenda this week, but if he is, highly recommend you check him out. But as it turns out, Gen Z, they're assimilating too. So these are our teens and our very young adults, and as they enter the workplace, they're adapting and finding uses for email marketing as well, and email just generally speaking. So because I am such an email geek, I do like to interview people kind of at random about their email usage and habits, including my friends' children. So this is the daughter of one of my college sorority sisters. I also like to interview men on dates about their email habits. Always gets me the second date. Actually, most recently, I was out with someone who, he revealed to me that he's a practitioner of Inbox Zero. Anyone here, one Inbox Zero person, 2, 3, 4? Anyone over here, 5, 6? All right, so half a dozen of you are lunatics. Right, if you don't know what Inbox Zero is, it means that you act on every single message in your inbox. You delete it, you archive it, you sort it, you reply to it. I can't even imagine doing that. I've literally got at least 200,000 unopened messages in my Gmail right now. So when this guy said he was an Inbox Zero guy, and he didn't know what that phrase meant, but he actually opened up his inbox and showed me, it's empty. And he was very proud, and I'm like, I don't think this is gonna work out. And it didn't. But anyway, I talked to my friend Sophie about email, and it turned out that the reason she first created an email account was because of something called Webkinz. Does anybody know what Webkinz is? Yes. What is Webkinz?
It's a little toy, and you have to communicate with it through email. And the same with Club Penguin, you have to get on the account to be able to utilize the product.
So you get a stuffed animal, and then you have to go online and create an account for yourself and your stuffed animal. And there's like a community, right? They play with the other digital animals. Like, so you and your friends, like you've got your IRL stuffy, right? But then you also have your online stuffies. And so these were the like communities of children and tweens like a decade ago. So Sophie signed up for email so that she could play with her Webkinz. Thank you, Webkinz, for keeping us relevant, right? I feel like I should write a love note to these guys. And then when she got to high school, she needed email to communicate with her professors and her classmates. She needed email to apply to college. She actually has now gone away to college, just finished her first year at University of Alabama. That's Roll Tide, right? Did I get that right? Right. I'm from like the upper South, not the lower South. And she's also a brand ambassador. She used to be an ambassador for Bangs shoes. Now it's Harley Davidson because she's edgy like that. But yeah, email is a big part of her life. So hopefully we're all convinced it's not dead. It's cool. It's the hot new channel. It is the preferred method of brand contact. Who here prefers to receive promotional messages in SMS? One. There's always just one. So in an ideal world, you get the SMS, we get the email. There are billions and billions of email addresses and more being created every single day. Nearly all of us have made a purchase that was influenced by email marketing. FYI, if you're a B2C marketer, the majority of those decisions are made by women, so just file that away. How many of you are B2B marketers? Okay, B2C. We're about a 50-50 split here. The majority of my examples are B2C. We're seeing not a whole lot of radical innovation yet in the B2B world. Wherever I can think of it, I'll try to translate like the direct application of a B2C idea. And actually, I have a couple that are in reverse. But the coolest and most innovative ideas are coming out of B2C, and B2B has been a little bit timid about adopting it. And I hope that I encourage you to kind of break free of that and get a little more creative today. The ROI of email is why we're all employed. It's our number one channel for return on investment. Depending on the year and the source, this number, this ratio, fluctuates from about 37-1 to 42-1. But the last study that I saw, it was 38-1 ROI. Every dollar that you invest into email marketing, you should be making $38 in return. Marketers believe that this is going to continue, that ROI is going to continue to increase. This is a survey of marketers on what do you think the ROI is of all of these channels, and we lumped together those that said excellent or good. These are the results we come up with. So 73% of those surveyed said that email marketing was excellent or good. And when we shave it back and just look at excellent, 27% said excellent for email marketing. Only 4% said display offers excellent return on investment. However, we're spending about 1,000% more on display ads than we are on email marketing. And that's bananas, y'all. Right? If we're generating the money, shouldn't we be getting a bigger piece of the pie? And if you're feeling strapped for resources, hopefully these are some ideas that you can pull together to start making a case for more investment in the email channel, to have the human resources and talent that you need, the technology resources you need, the strategy resources that you need. You're all investing in Digital Summit today, so that is a step in the right direction. So why is this? Why is email not getting enough attention when it comes to budget share? We're only dedicating about 15% of our budgets to email marketing overall, and it's thought of as like an unimportant channel. It's something that's delegated to junior people in some cases, like, oh, you know, you're a good problem solver, part-time admin kind of person, why don't you figure this out? And that's how a lot of people fall into email marketing. It's like, you can figure it out, someone's got to do it, we pick you. And then it's kind of like a cat that comes like astray, sniffing around your porch, right? Just kind of happens one day, some time goes by, and then you realize after a while, oh, I guess I'm an email marketer now, right? I guess this is sticking like this cat. But we still are not really getting the love that we deserve in terms of budget. And some companies just simply aren't buying it. They just don't believe the data. So it's kind of up to you to demonstrate that and to kind of spin straw into gold in some instances, right? Get savvy with what you've got, show the ROI, make a case for bigger investments in the email channel. This is a study that indicated that marketers are spending less than $10,000 a year on email marketing. Also bananas. But our optimism that email investment and ROI and success is going to continue to increase. It's not waning at all. And personalization is a big reason that everyone has this attitude now, because our technology is making us a lot more capable of very targeted and personalized and relevant messaging. This is kind of a difficult slide to explain. I'm going to do my best to break it down for you. This is a study from Forrester where they attempted to calculate the ROI of personalization, an investment into a very mature personalization strategy. And it actually came with a little Excel spreadsheet that you could punch in your own numbers and calculate the anticipated ROI for your company. But they put in some estimated average numbers, and these are the figures they came up with, that if you invest in personalization, that it's going to drive ROI 200% in the first year, 700% in the second year, and it's just going off the charts the third year and beyond. But what was so fascinating about this study was the reason that the ROI increased was not because people were going to spend more money on your campaigns. It was retention on the email list. Personalization was keeping people from unsubscribing and reporting email as spam. And so that compounds over time, and your list grows much more quickly when people aren't leaving it. So the bigger the list, the more powerful of a resource you have, as long as it's a high-quality list. More than half of us say that personalization is our number one priority. Who does that apply to here? Who says like personalization is your number one priority? So less than half of you. Some of you are shy, I think. Something that I'm observing with email marketing is that our strategies are shifting and they're becoming a lot more empathy-centric. We're not seeing cheap tricks and silly ploys because we're focused now on longer-term relationships. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that after this section. I like to think of email marketing as the fine wine of the digital channels. Like, it's been around forever, right? Jesus was drinking wine, right? We were emailing in the 70s. Some people, not me personally, probably not any of you, but some people were. And it's evolving with time. It's becoming more complex and more sophisticated. And maybe I'm biased. I don't know. But it's my favorite channel. I'm a sophisticated lady. So what is the state of email marketing today? I'd say that this headline sums it up best. Email is not dead. It's just getting harder to do well. I like to put this zombie lady in as many presentations as possible because I photoshopped that @ sign onto her t-shirt, so it's like my greatest Photoshop accomplishment in history. Gotta work her in everywhere. All right, so reminder that you can download these slides here. If you do download those slides, you'll be added to my mailing list, and you'll get an invitation to my next webinar, which is going to be with Seth Weisfeld of Pinterest. He is a lunatic, and he's got some very strong opinions and has made some really cool observations about trends in email. And so this is going to be about innovation in email. So I hope that you'll join the list and you'll join me and Seth. We like to do interactive webinars, so you can like chat with us live in real time, and we'll try to participate and interact with you live during the webinar. So it's definitely something that's better if you're doing it in real time than not. All right, so I promised you some information about humanization and this empathy-centric idea that's now driving email strategy. So I'd say that personalization 1.0 was our simple segmentation and some basic like first name personalization. Personalization 2.0 was when we got a little more sophisticated with our dynamic content and trying to make things a lot more relevant. Like our technology became more powerful. We could insert unique images and lines of text based on data points that are actionable within our email service provider that we've integrated with external data sources. And now we're moving toward personalization 3.0, which I'm calling humanization. This is one of the best examples of growth marketing that I've seen in the last year. I received this personally. You weren't expecting to see this at an email marketing conference, were you? So what's going on here? I made a purchase on Grubhub. And then I was targeted based on my behavior for this campaign. So it's behavioral trigger. This little fun-sized pack of Skittles with a hastily applied mailing label arrived with my food. It's personalized, it's handwritten, it's warm and friendly and personal. The call to action is clear. There's a very clear business objective here, and I know exactly what action they want me to take to accomplish that goal. And I love that it employs respect for me and my time and gratitude. And there's not an expectation of something for nothing. Not do this for us, but thanks in advance for doing this for us. Here is a token of our appreciation. How many of you here would identify yourself as a growth marketer? Just a few of you. How many of you have never heard the term growth marketing? A few of you. How many of you think that the term growth marketing is a big heaping load of BS just like Gaspar? How many of you have no idea what the difference is between growth marketing and growth hacking? Okay, that's totally normal. I asked women of email, I did a little poll, like, what do you think about this phrase? Is it something that you have a positive sentiment about and it identifies what you do or what you aspire to do? Do you have a negative sentiment? Do you think it's just garbage? Do you feel neutral or you've never heard of it? And somebody added one extra answer, and it was, it's just a buzzword. And like 95% of people were like, just a buzzword. And so I didn't really, I assume that that's either a neutral or negative sentiment. It's not a positive one, that's for sure. And the complaint was, it's not well defined. What does it even mean? So we are at Iterable trying to take steps toward defining it and explaining it. And that's what this section of today's session is about, is like, what is growth marketing? And how does that relate to email marketing? I think that a good starting point, though, is to talk about what it is not. So let's talk about that. Growth marketing is not going to aim to mislead or confuse anyone. It's not going to capitalize on negative emotions and negative sentiments to prompt an action. It doesn't employ any level of disrespect. And it's not prioritizing your brand and your objectives above the needs of your audience just for the purpose of driving engagement or conversions. These are all nopes when it comes to growth marketing. And we did lose an American icon this year, RIP Grumpy Cat. So Grumpy Cat does not approve of any of these, and I've got a few examples for you. Examples of nope in action. This is an actual email I received with the subject line, baking soda and death. I'm terrified what's going to happen if I don't open this email, so let's see what's inside. And it's a sponsored message. There's like a brief reference to some sort of an article, but apparently it doesn't kill you. Baking soda is not going to kill you, so surprise. It's just an ad for a diet plan. That's it, right? So they had this tactic to like get my attention and freak me out, and then they called me fat. It's not nice. Here's another one, action required, your job interview. Someone in my network actually received this email. She'd unfortunately been laid off from her job, and she had signed up for some employment sites, and she's looking for a new opportunity. And she gets an email that says, your job interview, and she panics, like, I have a job interview? What did I miss? So she opens it up. Hey there, we just wanted to check in with you. If you got a job, cool. But if you didn't, it'd be terrific if you'd update your alerts on our website. Right, so she was pissed, right? She panicked when she got this message, and she did not feel good about her relationship with this brand. This strategy is getting legs. Don't do it. So we've got here a subject line, your order's been shipped and it's on its way. We've got a typo in that subject line too. And you open it up because you didn't order anything. And it's like, just kidding. But leather's 15% off. Right? This is not cool. Does this achieve higher open rates? You betcha. It will. You'll have a short-term pop. But at what cost? Right? If I don't feel good about your brand, if I feel disrespected or duped by you, do I want to do business with you? Do I want to stay on your list? Am I going to potentially report you as spam? Is this going to cost you your ability to deliver to the inboxes of the people who do want to hear from you? Is this going to promote a long-term relationship between me and you? Right? You need honest, authentic communication if you want a relationship to work, right? You can't lie. So growth marketing is prioritizing retention and loyalty and customer lifetime value. So instead of looking at those short-term conversions, like what did we achieve with this campaign? What kind of opens did we get on this message? How many clicks did we get on this campaign? What was our revenue, conversions, ROI, profit, and so forth? That's important. Those are important metrics. But step back and look at the grand scheme of things, right? Is that going to pan out for you in the long term? Is that going to accomplish long-term goals? So customer lifetime value is starting to get traction now as the KPI of ultimate truth. And it's something that's difficult to calculate. And there's just a handful of companies that are really prioritizing this right now. Is there anyone who's quantifying customer lifetime value right now? Yes. 1, 2, okay, like maybe half a dozen of you. Over the next decade, this is going to get a lot more traction. The problem right now is that we've got disparate data and we're not necessarily connecting the dots, and it's also really difficult to figure out attribution models that can justify and explain why is customer lifetime value this much and what's influencing it throughout the whole customer journey. But we're getting there, and actually I believe that artificial intelligence is going to be a part of that progression. So growth marketing is all about a positive brand sentiment, and empathy and dignity and even morality have become central to these growth marketing strategies. Because growth marketing creates human connections lead to relationships, and relationships are what generate loyalty, those long-term relationships. So I've got some fun examples. Inspiration in action. I love it when my non-digital marketing friends get geeked out about email marketing and talk about it on social media, and that's what happened with this message from the American Red Cross. My Facebook friend literally went online and was like, I got this amazing email from the American Red Cross. So immediately I'm like DMing her, like, please send it to me immediately. I need to see this, and I need to share it with people, because if you care so much about email marketing, then a bunch of email marketers are going to be very interested in this. So at first glance, it's just email marketing, right? Hey, you made a donation. Awesome, you're saving lives. But if we look a little closer, this is what really got her attention. Your donation was sent to the University of Virginia Medical Center in Charlottesville and Centara Norfolk General Hospital. You saved lives in your community. And it made her feel amazing. It made her feel very connected to this donation and to the American Red Cross. And she's going to keep giving. This also was sent to me by a non-email person who knows what a nerd I am. My friend Jason sent this. He didn't even receive it. His girlfriend got this email, and they were so excited about it that they went out of their way to forward it to me, like, Jen, you're going to love this. So his girlfriend is a customer of Thrive Market, and you have to pay a recurring monthly membership fee to use this storefront. And so you get a very high level of service. And something went wrong, I'm not really sure what, but she had to contact customer support, and she had an email exchange with a lady named Stephanie. So after Stephanie resolved her problem, she received this message asking her to rate Stephanie's performance and ability to solve her problem. And we got like a nice little touch here so that you feel like Stephanie is an actual human person, like a little fun fact, like her name's highlighted, and her fun fact is that her favorite Thrive Market product is collagen peptides, which she likes in her coffee every morning. I don't know what that is. It's weird, right? But I love that I know this about Stephanie. So you have an opportunity here to rate her, 1 to 5 stars, and drop in a little note about how it went, some extra details that might be necessary. And we see a lot of these like ratings and reviews messages. They're pretty typical. Gold star for this one for being an actual interactive form that you can complete within the email client. You don't have to go to a landing page. That's kind of a sophisticated, difficult thing to do, but that's not the most exciting thing about this email. It's down below. Down here, there's one more item that you can select during the survey. What should we give to Stephanie? If she did a really great job, how should we reward her? Should we get her drunk? Should we send her to the movies? Should she get like an amazing massage at the spa? You get to decide. How can we reward Stephanie? And that's cool. Like, Stephanie has become a human person. Stephanie helped me. I want to help her in return. How many of you folks are customers of Penzeys Spices? Just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, just a few. Bill Penzey founded this company in the 1980s. He's from like a family of spice experts, and he decided to embark on his first spice company in the 80s, and he had a catalog, a little direct mail catalog, and he would sell his spices. But something he's always done is he's had very strong opinions about social and political issues. And so from his earliest days, Bill Penzey would write these big, long diatribes about how he was feeling about the world today and the United States today. And this has always been a part of his brand. But he was largely under the radar until the 2016 presidential election. He is a very left-leaning individual, and he is not a fan of Donald Trump. And the day after the election, he wrote this scathing email, and he sent it to his entire database, basically demonizing anyone who supported Donald Trump. And it went viral. It got a lot of attention from the media, and people were divided. People who disliked Donald Trump, they're like, that's right, I'm gonna buy all your spices, Bill. And then people who were very pro-Trump were like, screw you, Bill, I don't want any of your pepper or salt or parsley ever again. It's not gonna be on my dinner table. I'm done with you. And it didn't slow him down. He has gotten more and more aggressive and vocal about his point of view on a wide variety of political and social issues. And most recently, this was early last month, he sent out a campaign and a promotional effort that was around hurricane relief in Puerto Rico. So his point of view is that Puerto Rico did not get the attention that it deserved to recover from the hurricane, and he wants to do his part to help by offering a kit of spices that you as a consumer can buy and gift to people in need who are rebuilding their homes and their lives in Puerto Rico. And you can also buy a gift for yourself or for a loved one. And so for $30, I think, you get a pack of spices for yourself or for a friend, and for $20, you can send a package of spices to Puerto Rico. And you can see he's got a long, long, long explanation of how he's feeling about all of this. Kind of flies in the face of what we consider to be best practices for email. It's usually very concise and to the point. There's often concern, like, I don't want to divide, I don't want to alienate anyone, and he just goes full throttle with what he thinks. And he included some pictures here of his team delivering some of these spices in Puerto Rico. And so, as it turns out, this strategy is working out pretty well for Bill. So last year, he sent out an email. The subject line was, "This is what democracy looks like." And he basically revealed that by championing his moral point of view, by discussing what he believes is righteous and good, and using his platform to explain that to the world, that he's actually really improving his bottom line. And he had doubled his growth year over year as a result of these polarizing strategies. He had one campaign in particular, it was an 80 times lift in sales over the previous year at that point in time. But it's not just liberal points of view, progressive points of view, or left-leaning points of view that really benefit you. Any company that has a very strong stance on religion, on politics, on social issues, if you are making that a part of your brand and your campaigns, it tends to benefit you. So we know Hobby Lobby is very conservative religious views that they've taken all the way to the Supreme Court. And there are people who are outraged about this. And there are people who think it is terrific and tremendous and representative of American values. And Hobby Lobby is doing better than they ever had before. So the negativity often helps spur, more people getting behind the brand that believes in that point of view. So it doesn't matter if you're leaning to the left or leaning to the right. If you're infusing morality into your campaigns, it often is very beneficial. I thought this was an interesting example from Lyft. I've never seen anything like this before. They sent me a message and asked me to select my pronouns. Some people think that that's not something that we should be talking about and that people should be changing, but then there are people who feel it's very important that they choose the pronouns that describe them because it means that you respect them and you have dignity for them and who they are and how they self-identify. And so it's up to you to decide if you want to do this or not, but you have that option. So you scroll down and it shows you exactly how to make the change right in the app so that the marketing is addressing you in the way you want to be addressed, and so that the drivers can also address you in the way that you want to be addressed. Did anyone see this email making the rounds on Twitter and social media a few months ago? Yeah, a couple people. This got a lot of attention, and this is an amazing example of growth and empathy in action. There are certain holidays that are triggers for people, and Mother's Day could be one of those, right? Maybe you have a bad relationship with your mother, maybe you have a bad relationship with your child, maybe you lost a child or you can't have children. Like, for whatever reason, Mother's Day might be a sensitive day for you. This floral company wants to be considerate of you. And if you don't want to receive email that's relevant to the Mother's Day holiday, you can opt out. You can opt out of marketing from us. We respect your needs, your boundaries, and so forth. It's not going to protect you. It's not going to put you in a bubble from all things Mother's Day, right? But if you are someone who has those feelings about Mother's Day, then it makes you remember that brand. You remember that Bloom and Wild cares about me, and so they're top of mind the next time you need to purchase flowers. So it's just sensitivity to people's needs above your own brand. Who's a Chewy customer? There's always a lot of Chewy customers in these crowds. Chewy's killing it, y'all. So it's a pet company, and I believe that the majority of their customers are getting dog food delivered regularly. So it's just right to your front door, those big heavy bags, very convenient. But inevitably, what happens with our pets? They move on, they pass. Yeah, we lose them. And if you are a pet owner who's lost a pet, you know that that can be extremely traumatic. And inevitably, if you've lost a pet, you don't remember to send a message to Chewy and cancel your recurring orders. Then that big bag of dog food lands on your front porch. And it's kind of a painful reminder. And now you've got a giant bag of dog food and nothing to do with it. So what happens is folks reach out to Chewy and they're like, I need to return this. I need to cancel my subscription. I've lost my pet. And usually these are interactions that are happening via email or live chat. Sometimes they're on the phone. But what happens is Chewy says, don't worry. Donate it to a shelter, right? It's a wash, right? We'll call it even. You don't have to send it back. You don't have to pay for it. And we're very sorry for your loss. And then, within the coming days or weeks, you get very personal attention from Chewy. You'll get a handwritten note with expressing condolences for your loss. You might get a bouquet of flowers. You might even get a custom work of art of your pet, right? So they've started doing that. They've hired an artist to paint your pup and to send it to you as a memorial to really express empathy for your loss. And even though this isn't necessarily an email example, this is part of like a holistic cross-channel growth strategy, and it's something that's very expensive to do, right? To deliver all these works of art and flowers and so forth. Obviously, they've negotiated some deals on it. But what this has accomplished for Chewy is, one, it's gone viral, right? You can't buy that kind of PR and media attention. And two, loyalty for life. You will forever be a Chewy customer if you have this experience with them, and after losing a pet, then you get another pet. Like, you can't even imagine being disloyal to them after that point in time. So this is kind of the ultimate example of empathy in action, growth marketing mindset. So what are our takeaways when it comes to growth marketing and empathy and morality? Short-term wins are important. Those opens and clicks and conversions on a single campaign are important, but we're looking at the big picture. We're looking at the long game. The golden rule, this is pretty easy. Treat people the way you want to be treated, right? Don't trick people into opening up your email or acting on it. Be authentic, be transparent. Personalization is good, and we need to keep personalizing and leveling up our personalization strategies, but humanization, that's where we're really going to win. So think about this concept of growth and how you can take that back to your company. Are you doing any kind of sneaky little tricks? For instance, are you putting fake from names in email to make it look like a one-to-one communication with like RE or forward in the subject line? Like, are you doing anything kind of sneaky because you read somewhere this is going to increase your opens or your clicks or what have you? If you are, think about, well, what would be a better approach? What would be a more transparent and authentic way to get those results so that you are not making people feel a little weirded out by their relationship with your brand? How many folks here are agency side? Just a few. It's usually about 25% of these audiences are agency side. This is the big trend that I'm seeing. I know agencies are always looking for thought leadership and advice that you can give to your customers. I would definitely advise you to give some consideration to this concept of empathy and growth in action for your own growth or for your own thought leadership, if that's something that you're a part of. And if you want to have a conversation with me and my ideas on this, I'm happy to have a conversation and support you on that. So feel free to ping me. All right, he's back. It's Gaspar with our first example of a BS best practice. View and browser links. These are a thing. I used to be on the practitioner side, so I started out working on the brand side, and then I moved over to agency, and now I've been on the tech side of things for 5 or 6 years now. And when I was hands-on creating email marketing, and I wanted to know, how should I do this? Naturally, I'm like signing up for all the blogs, signing up for all the webinars, downloading all the white papers. And one of these best practices that kept jumping out at me was you have to always include a view and browser link. And this is quotes from 4 different sources. Like, you must do this, you have to do this, this is something you have to do. And probably the majority of you are doing this right now. There are any beginners here, real quick, terminology. Pre-header is that little sliver of text up at the top, and that is where that view and browser link exists. And that pre-header text also visible in the inbox view right next to the subject line. So our subject line, do you have your Thanksgiving turkey yet? And that pre-header text is mirrored there. Pre-orders yours and get 10% off, followed by that view in browser link or mirror link. So the best practice is to always include this. Now, 5 years ago, our iPhones were a little bit smaller than they are today. And I was working with higher ed clients on remarketing strategies. And whenever somebody showed interest in an educational program, but we weren't able to connect them with an admissions counselor to qualify them and find out, could they potentially be a student at this school, we'd send them a message asking them, can you confirm? Are you still interested? We haven't been able to get a hold of you. And I had that pre-header text, and I had that view in browser text, but I was an email unicorn. Any email unicorns here? Okay, I guess I'll have to explain it to you. I see one. An email unicorn is doing it all. So in this case, I was at an agency, and I had to create strategy. I had to write the copy. I had to do the design. I had to do the dev. I had to do the implementation. I had to do the reporting. I had to do it all. One woman unicorn. In addition to that, I had to figure out, what am I selling? I had to pitch my services to these prospective clients. I had to show them the results of the campaigns and try to upsell them to sell more email marketing services to them. So for me, it was a lot of work. I had to wear a lot of hats. It's an unbelievable crash course. Okay, so now that I've explained that, who self-identifies as a unicorn? Yeah, a lot more of you. Feel free to use that term. So when you're a unicorn, every single to-do on your list is significant, and any place that you can streamline and optimize your time is really important. So if I could cut some steps out of my email creation process, that kind of compounds over time, and it frees me up to focus on more important things. And all I could think was, one, there's a level of effort here to making sure it's rendering correctly, making sure the link is functioning, reporting on clicks on the link. So it's a small thing, but it's still a thing. And if I can shave that down, then that would be great. But also, this view in browser link, it's taking up a lot of precious pixels. And I had one client that 80% of their opens were on mobile devices, and this was 5 years ago. So you want your email strategy to follow, what the data is telling you to do. My data was saying this is a mobile-first audience, and they've got little teeny tiny screens because this is about 5 years ago. So I thought, wouldn't it be terrific if I could remove that? Maybe I could get the call to action button up above the fold. Did I say something that just felt a little weird to anybody here? What was it? Fold is real. All right. You can fight me. And I'll explain to you a little bit more why. If you don't know what the fold is, once upon a time, we used to get information from this thing called a newspaper. And the most important news of the day would be on the upper half of the front page, where it was folded in half. And so as you're walking by the newsstand, you would see at a glance, what is today's most important news? And that would help you make a decision on whether you wanted to buy that newspaper or not. And so fast forward to the digital era. This started with websites. Anything that you could see without scrolling is above the fold. And then we started talking about email in this way as well. And then as time went on, people started saying, there's no fold, there's no such thing as fold. This is the mobile era, it's infinite scrolling, y'all. It doesn't matter how far down it is. I'm here to tell you, it does. And I will show you why in a moment. But what I first wanted to do was I needed to figure out, do I really need this link? Do I need a view in browser link? Can I just get rid of this? Because I know that there is a benefit to having that pre-header text after the subject line. That could potentially influence opens and have an effect on my open rate. But do I need that view in browser link? And also, there is, with a little sliver of code, you can hide your pre-header text. So I could benefit from having it next to the subject line, but make it disappear in my creative, thus moving my creative up, getting that call to action button a few pixels higher on the screen. So I dove into my data, and it turned out that 0.2% of my email opens were within browsers. This is because I knew my audience. I knew that they were majority mobile, and I prioritized a mobile-first experience much sooner than a lot of other email marketers, because that's what was important for me. And so it made it clear to me that, hey, my emails must be looking pretty swift on all of the most important rendering environments. I don't think I need this link. I think I've got enough data points here to experiment with moving everything up, eliminating the visible pre-header, and maybe getting that button up a little bit higher. So I did, and then I wrote an article about it, why we're ditching the view and browser link, but maybe you shouldn't. And not all of you should, right? So this was a best practice that was just BS for me. Someone recently told me that they get something like 15% of their clicks are on the view and browser link. And I was like, well, why do you think that is? Do you think you have a rendering problem? And she said, no, we're B2B, and I think most people are images off, and rather than switching to images on, they're clicking on view and browser. And I'm like, well, by all means, keep it, right? That's a data-driven decision. For me, my data-driven decision was, this can go. I don't need this. The level of effort is not worthwhile for me. So I wrote this article, and thinking nobody's going to read this. This is just some rinky-dink agency in Paramus, New Jersey that nobody's ever heard of. And it got traction. It got picked up, and it's actually influenced some of the best practices that have evolved since then. It was even cited in a book a few years ago. And it led to me getting a fabulous new job. So when it comes to best practices, ask yourself two questions. Does this advance my business objective, and does this serve my audience? In this case, that view and browser link did neither of these things for me. This was a best practice that was not worthwhile for me. But for that person that I just cited, 15% of her clicks, yes, this served her audience. This advanced her business objectives, and it should stay. So it's kind of a balancing act. So don't blindly embrace and follow any best practice without giving it some critical thought. All right, so you're probably wondering, did this achieve more clicks, this change, right? Did it work? What do you think? Yes? No? I have no idea. I got a new job. But this is my evidence that the fold is real. This is an email from my company, Iterable. And you can see that we've got that call to action button up high. It's above the hero image, technically, on the mobile version, and right next to it on the desktop version. And then it's repeated a second time down at the bottom below the body copy. And everyone I know who's implemented this fallback call to action strategy says they do see a lift in clicks. So to me, I think this is evidence that the fold is real. It's not a huge deal, but it's a thing that you should think about. Feel free to fight me. All right, so we're going to talk real quickly about filling in the gaps in your email program before our first break. That workbook, this is where you're keeping track of all of your ideas that hopefully are occurring throughout this session. And then on page 4, I've got two kind of basic examples of a typical life cycle for B2C versus B2B. If you're B2C, then it will advise you to move on to page 5, and if you're B2B, page 6. And on those pages, you'll find these grids. I think I can zoom in here. So the columns are the steps in the life cycle. Yours might be different. If you've defined a life cycle that's a little different than this, then you can, when you get back to your office, kind of create your own grid version of this. But this is a good starting place. And then our rows are different campaign types. And so I've got one campaign type that we're calling in-funnel. So this would be your life cycle programs that are like pushing people from one step to the next, pushing them from awareness to acquisition to consideration and so forth. Funnel fallout, these would be your re-engagement campaigns. So when they don't do what you want them to do, during the in-funnel stage, you've got a re-engagement campaign that's meant to kind of prompt them back and push them back into the funnel. And then ongoing engagement is sort of everything else. And I've listed some examples of what those types of campaigns might be. You might be running some of these, not running others. Some might not make any sense for you at all. But I challenge you by Friday to do your best to fill this out or create your own grid so that you can figure out, do you have a campaign addressing every single one of these steps in your life cycle? And you'll be able to very easily identify any gaps, right? So for instance here, if you were to make a first-time purchase, you've converted, there's not any kind of a welcome, you've made your first purchase, here's what you can expect, we're so glad to have you as a customer type of message. And then if you fail to make a second purchase, there's not any kind of a re-engagement campaign that's meant specifically for one-and-done customers to bring them back. So you can fill out this grid, identify the gaps, and then go back to page 3 and just add them there. Just keep a running list of those campaigns that you might want to introduce. You don't have to have all good ideas here or things that you know you're going to implement in the short term. Just keep a list of every idea, good, bad, and different. We'll figure that out later. But just start jotting them down along with any other ideas that you get. And we will revisit that a little later. After the break, we're going to talk about welcome campaigns and re-engagement campaigns because these are massive areas of opportunity for pretty much anybody. There's always room to expand, introduce new campaigns, and optimize what you have. And we've got a real quick BS segment before we take our quick coffee break. Video and email is something that was gaining in popularity when I was a practitioner, and I was reading all these articles that said, oh, it's going to introduce your click rate or increase your click rates. It's going to increase conversions. If you put the word video in your subject line, it's going to benefit you. And so I was going to all my customers and I was like, video, do you have video? What kind of video assets do you have? What kind of video assets can you make? We need video. Video's hot. Video's going to get you more conversions. You're going to get more clicks. Video, right? So I'm losing my mind. Like, what do you have? We have to do this. So we did. Here's how it went. Boom, boom. Not so good. Video not working. Oh, okay. Let's try it again. Bam. Ouch. No, still not working for that client either. Let's try it one more time with another client. Down, down, down. It's not getting any better. But I read all these articles that said video was going to increase my clicks and conversions. Could this be a big steaming pile of BS? Yeah, sometimes those studies are a big steaming pile of BS. Like, we want to be told what to do. We want easy answers. We want data to tell us the path we should take, but we're not always looking at our own data. We're looking at other people's data, and they're not telling us the whole story. So flawed methodology tends to be the big issue with this type of advice that's floating around out there. I'm sure a lot of you remember 10 years ago, somebody wrote a blog post that said the best time to send email marketing is Tuesdays at 10 a.m., right? And we're like, oh, gotta send all my email Tuesdays at 10 a.m., right? If everybody sends their email at Tuesday at 10 a.m., does anybody benefit? No, but it was an easy answer. And it was like a logical time to send email. You're at your desk and you've settled in, you've had your coffee. But is it the best time to send email? Might be for you, might not. The question I always get at this point is, well, when is the best time to send my email? Because I am sending it Tuesdays at 10 a.m. And a great starting point is to look at when are people opting in for your email. So I had a customer, we went back, looked at their historic data, and we determined that they generated the most subscribes on Sunday evenings. And so we started sending email Sunday late afternoon, engagement popped. So when's the right time for you? Don't know. But if you look to your historic data, you might find some inspiration in there to help you figure out maybe a test or a new strategy. We're going to get started again at 10 o'clock, so we've got about 12, 13 minutes, maybe 15. I never know if my watch is a couple minutes fast. If you'd like a sticker, I'll be down here handing them out. If you have a question for me, I'm happy to answer them, but we're going to get started again at 10. Welcome back. If you haven't gotten your hands on that worksheet yet, it's at iterable.com/DSTPA, which is DSTPA, also the hashtag for this event. It's all the way down at the bottom of the page. You do not have to complete the form in order to download the workbook. But I'd love it if you complete the form. All right, so we're through our first 45 minutes. We're back. We're going to talk about welcome campaigns, and we're going to talk about re-engagement, and we're going to talk about A/B testing. And we're also going to bring back, Gaspar, that's his name. So Gaspar's back because best practices are BS, and so are most industry studies. And here's an example of a message that I got from my car dealership. I'm a Mini owner. Down at the bottom, way down here, they've given me an opportunity to unsubscribe in one click. Make it easier than ever before for people to leave your marketing. Because that's a great idea. It's actually a terrible idea. But somehow it got traction as a best practice, and my guess is that there was an email service provider out there looking for some market differentiators, and somebody said, I've got it. We can offer one-click opt-out, make it real easy and a seamless experience for people to disengage from email marketing, which flies in the face of everything we're trying to accomplish, but we'll convince people that this is a good thing and that they can only get it from our solution, and they've got to have it. And so people are like, oh yeah, they're putting it in their RFPs. I need that one-click unsubscribe. Right, and then it gets traction, and then the other email service providers are like, oh, we should do that too, because people are asking for it. Well, it's not the best idea, and there are a number of reasons why Gaspar disapproves of one-click unsubscribes. First of all, sometimes we get messages, we're not even sure how it got in our inbox. Right, so it's a great idea to drive people to a landing page to confirm, this is the email address you are unsubscribing. Please confirm that's the thing you want to do. Right, because I'm on distribution lists, I've got old email addresses that are forwarding to new email addresses. How did I actually get this? Who am I actually unsubscribing? Also, we have big, fat, clumsy fingers, and we're clicking on text links in fine print on our mobile devices. Maybe we meant to click on the privacy policy. Maybe we meant to click on the preference center. If I click unsubscribe and boom, I'm opted out, and a lot of times there's no way to opt back in on those pages, that's a problem. But there's one massive, ginormous reason that you never, ever want to use a one-click unsubscribe, and it's bots. So in certain verticals, it's commonplace for there to be bots that are clicking on every single link in your email before it is delivered to the intended recipient to check for malware. This is most common in the higher ed, healthcare, and government verticals, but it can happen elsewhere, or if someone is using their work email for marketing messages and they're in one of these verticals. So even if you're not B2B or you're not dealing with those audiences, your recipient might be using their work address. So these bots are clicking on those unsubscribe links, and they're unsubscribing people from your email before they ever see it. And then they don't understand why they're not getting it anymore. So one-click unsubscribes are a nope from me and Gaspar. Also, there's a great opportunity to retain people at the point of unsubscribe. When people say, I don't want your email anymore, what they're actually saying is, your campaigns are not accommodating my needs. So usually they are feeling that they are irrelevant, or you're sending too frequently. And these two ideas are very much intertwined. If it's relevant, then it's coming at the right frequency, right? And the right frequency can change from one day to the next. If I'm showing high engagement now, maybe frequency should be higher. If I'm showing low engagement, maybe frequency should be lower, but you still are existing in my inbox. According to Forrester, which is one of those places that I do trust the data, it's only about a quarter of people who unsubscribe who truly never want to hear from you again. If they have opted in, it's for a reason. Something was appealing about your brand. There's a reason that they're on your list. And it's not that they never want to hear from you again, you're just not giving them better options. So the unsubscribe page is an opportunity for an opt-down, like a very light preference center. And often we'll hear that the best practice for the opt-down page, for the unsubscribe/opt-down page, is to give those folks control over email frequency. That makes sense if frequency is their problem. Oh wait, maybe that's not a good idea either. It's Gaspar, he's back to resolve the situation. There are a few reasons we might not want to give control of frequency, handing it over to the recipients. Does anyone want to guess at one of those reasons? Anyone feeling brave? It's the messaging still might not be relevant. That is true. Adjusting frequency does not make your strategy better. It just makes your frequency less. Any other guesses? No one ever chooses once a week. Do you think they choose once a month?
You might get a couple people to do that, but it's going to be a lot of unsubscribes or like at the longest possible time.
People are naturally going to gravitate toward, in this example, once per month, whatever the bare minimum is. I'm not sure if that's true or not. Maybe. The email could be stale by the time they get it. All right, so they're not getting important information in the moment that it's important. These are all good points. Also, if you are the person who's implementing these campaigns, it is a nightmare to try to manage these types of preferences when you're setting up your campaigns. It's technically difficult, right? And some email service providers have tried to mitigate that and accommodate this request, but it's still tricky. But there's another reason, and it kind of goes back to that idea that you mentioned about you're not getting the most relevant information at the right moment. So let's say I got a message from eBags, and they're like, hey, we've got stuff, and it's on sale, and you want it. And I've selected one per month, so I get my one per month, and I see something that I like, and I throw it in my cart, and then I get distracted by like my job or something, shopping at work again. All right, so in an ideal world, with this being an e-com company, they'd want to send me an abandoned cart message like this, like, here is that adorable red leather crossbody bag that you want for your fabulous vacation in Cinque Terre. I did want it for a vacation in Cinque Terre. But technically, they should not trigger this message to me. I've said one per month, right? I got my one, I engaged with the brand, then I forgot. And this is your highest ROI campaign if you have a cart. It's abandoned cart. So technically, their hands should be tied. They shouldn't be sending me this message, although my behavior is showing a high propensity to convert in this moment. So it does make sense to send it to me, but I told you no, right? So when you see engagement increasing, that's when you want to increase your frequency, because then it is relevant to increase frequency. And there's nothing more relevant really than abandoned cart, right? This is so specific to my behavior and what I've shown an interest in. So you don't want to give them total control over email frequency with these opt-down preference centers. I like this approach from Michaels as kind of a first step toward giving your recipient more control over your relationship. Send me fewer emails. So you can unsubscribe from all. You can bail out and be like, oh no, I just want to keep them coming. Or you can say, send me fewer. And then when you click, they're like, oh, you need a little bit of space. We get it. We're just going to send you 1 or 2 per week. So it's kind of non-committal, right? We'll lighten it. We're not going to, blast you with 8 or 9 messages a week. But we're also not going to commit to how many it's going to be. We're going to respect your need, but you don't get to control everything because we need to be able to deliver relevant and important information to you when the time is right. This is an even better approach, is to give folks the opportunity to choose what types of campaigns they want to receive. So in this instance, do you want new products? Do you want promotions and discounts? Do you want editorial content? And to even make this better, if we set an expectation of frequency for each one of these campaign types, that would be super helpful. So, new products, maybe you get 1 per week. Discounts and offers, maybe you get 3 per week. Editorial content, there's just 1 per month. So giving them some control without tying your own hands is the perfect middle ground to retaining them, keeping them on your list, and not dealing with as much list attrition. So list growth is maximized. And remember, we had that study from Forrester that said that personalization also contributes to list growth because people aren't opting out. This is like leveling that up. Step 2, also give them an opportunity to control that email relationship, and your list grows very quickly. All right, so we're going to talk about welcome campaigns, re-engagement, and A/B testing. Welcome. So what is a welcome campaign? Typically, we'll think of it as something that we send to somebody who's a new subscriber or maybe a new customer, but it can go beyond that. You could be welcoming or introducing or onboarding folks at multiple steps in the life cycle. So it might be when they first sign up as a customer. It might be when they're a trial customer. It might be when they're a first-time purchase made. Could be an introduction to a loyalty program. It could be any number of things that could be defined as a welcome campaign. And these are really, really special opportunities because they happen at a moment that people are highly engaged and interested with your brand. And so you have to capitalize on that and make the most of it. If you just send a message that's like, thank you for signing up, and that's it, it's kind of a dead end, that's a big lost opportunity because these campaigns have tremendous open rates, massive click rates, like these are super opportunities. So how do we want to make the most of them? It's a great idea to let them know, remind them who you are, right? How they ended up on your list, what to expect next, manage their expectations. So I love examples. I've got loads and loads of welcome campaign examples for you and re-engagement campaign examples for you. I like this one from All Recipes. You sign up like, hey, I cook food. I want recipes. You sign up, and your welcome message is driving you to a preference center because they want to send you recipes that are relevant to you. Are you carnivorous? Are you vegan? Right? Do you make meals for a large family? Do you make meals just for yourself? Do you want really simple recipes? Do you want slow cooker recipes? Do you want sophisticated fancy dinner party recipes? What do you want? Let us know. And we're going to send you the content that's relevant to you. I love this example from Garmin because they capitalized on their welcome campaign to capture an extra data point for segmentation. So they were not able to get their website team to support them with some kind of a progressive profiling or opt-in preference center at the moment of email capture. And so what's the workaround? Well, let's use email to try to capture the data points we need to do better email going forward. So the first message you get is, hey, what product are you interested? What category of product do you care about? Because the folks who are interested in their fitness and recreation gear are probably very different than the people who are interested in aviation gear. And one size does not fit all. Like, we don't want to send information about airplane devices and navigation to somebody who just wants to go run a marathon. It's irrelevant. So I've seen progressive profiling strategies like this, where with one click, you capture that data point and you can move forward. I've seen click rates up to 35% on strategies like this. That's an insane number. But welcome programs are that unique opportunity. Girlfriend Collective has a really cool social media presence, and so the first thing that they want their new subscribers to do is to sign up on, to follow them on Instagram. So that's where they're driving them. That's That's the objective. That way, they're reaching you through 2 channels. SeatGeek is one of our clients at Iterable, and they have a 3-part welcome program. So you sign up for email, and you get this confirmation, and you scroll down, and they're like, by the way, this is a double opt-in. We need you to confirm. Double opt-in is widely regarded as a best practice. My point of view is that it's the exception, not the rule. They had a business case for it. It was important for them. It's not important for everybody. You could lose 40 to 60% of your list if you require a double opt-in, because a lot of people are not going to do that. They've already said, I want to be on your mailing list, and you send them a message and you say, do you want to be on my mailing list? Well, yeah, I already told you that. That's not convenient to me. So I don't recommend this generally. The question I usually get at this point is, what about GDPR, right? Don't I have to do double opt-in to be compliant with GDPR if I am aiming to be GDPR compliant, which GDPR applies to the EU. And so if your audience is 100% US, depending on how your legal counsel wants to interpret the law, it might not be something that you have to worry about. But a lot of companies are trying to be GDPR compliant. I am not an attorney. I cannot give you legal advice. Nothing that I say on the stage today is legal advice. Disclaimer, disclaimer, asterisk, asterisk. However, you do have to prove the opt-in to be GDPR compliant, but you don't have to do it with a double opt-in message. To me, that's the laziest possible way to prove consent, and it compromises your business objectives. So if it's the only way that you can accommodate that compliance need in the short term, make a plan to move away from it in the long term and figure out how you can get confirmation of the opt-in at the point of acquisition. All right, so the second message in the SeatGeek welcome campaign, they want to drive you to their app. So it's like, hey, great, you double opted in. Now you should download the app. So now we can reach you through push notifications and in-app messages. So there's synergy between, what a buzzword, synergy. I don't think I've ever actually said that on a stage before. Sorry. So silos are being broken down between the mobile team and the email team and the web team. They're coming together on this cross-channel strategy. And then finally, the third message drives you to a preference center-like experience. SeatGeek is a company that sells tickets to live events. So what are you interested in? Do you want to go see Beyonce? Do you like music concerts? Do you love sports? Do you want to go see the Yankees play? Do you like stand-up comedy? What is it that you're looking for so that we can alert you when there are great events in your area? B2B example, Asana is an app for project management. Project management is my greatest deficiency, so Asana is my friend. You sign up for Asana, first thing they tell you to do, all right, get in there, use our application to start adding your tasks. Very clear journey that they want me to take here. ZocDoc, you can make your doctor's appointments online. You don't have to call anybody. Like anything that prevents phone calls is my favorite thing ever. So ZocDoc, you can sign up online. And the first thing I want you to do is download the app, right? We've got your email address. You can start making your doctor's appointments online, but you can also make your doctor's appointments on the app, and then we can send you notifications and reminders and so forth via push if you sign up for the app. And if you scroll down, we've got gorgeous branding, value proposition, and a secondary call to action to book an appointment. Havenly is making interior design accessible to the masses. So you get this welcome message, you've signed up for their list, and they're like, look at this gorgeous bedroom space. We've got this ethereal millennial pink, and here's the CEO in the bedroom of your dreams. Like, doesn't this look terrific? Don't you want to get into this bed? Well, you can. So we've got this very personal and heartfelt message from the CEO telling you about her brand, and then she's encouraging you to take the next step. Book your designer, make it happen. You don't have to be wealthy to have a designer help you with your home layout, decor, and so forth. I have a cool campaign from AAA. A friend of mine who is with AAA shared this with me. It is really hard to get start to finish examples of campaigns that I can present at conferences like this, so I'm very grateful that AAA shared this with me. But not only did they share the creative with me, they shared the KPIs with me. So this is an example of a best-in-class welcome onboarding series for new members of AAA. Open rate on every single one of these messages exceeded 70%, and the click rate on every single one of these messages exceeded 30%. I've seen numbers like this on the first message in a campaign, and sometimes it can taper off. They spaced this out, and I don't know if that's why the KPIs are so high, or because the quality of the content is so great, or if it's some combination of that, or if they made it a shorter campaign, if you'd still see the same engagement rates. But this is how they approached it, and their success was really phenomenal. So the first message you get, you sign up, you become a AAA member online, and you get a triggered message like, hey, congrats, you're a AAA member. We're going to send you your card in the mail, but for right now, you can download the electronic temporary card, right? Keep it handy, put it in your glove box, and we'll be there for you if you have an emergency between now and the moment that you receive your car and get it into your wallet. A couple weeks later, you get a second message. Here are the benefits of being a AAA member when it comes to your automotive needs. So they explain all of that. Got some secondary content below. Day 30, it's been a month. You know, you signed up for the automotive support, but you also get discounts. So let's tell you about the deals and steals that you benefit from as a AAA member. Secondary content down below. All right, so then day 45, you also can experience savings when it comes to your travel for business or pleasure. So let's tell you all about the benefits of traveling with AAA, get those discounts on hotels and so forth. Day 60, we can also get you a great deal on insurance. So let's tell you about that as well. Get a quote on your car insurance. So there you have it, 5-step campaign over a period of 60 days, open rates 71 to 77% on every single message, and click rates in the mid-30s, around 35%. Amazing. It's really not that complex.
Out of all the actions in there, like there's a bazillion buttons to click on every last one.
There is a primary call to action and a primary objective on every single one of these messages. And they chose to have some secondary content there as well. Would it have performed as well without all those extra calls to action in the secondary sections? Don't know. The strategy might have been, well, just in case you're not interested in that, maybe you'll be interested in this. I don't know exactly. I wasn't involved with the campaign. I do personally really like a single strong objective for each campaign, and maybe secondary content. I agree, this is a lot of secondary content, and maybe you don't want to do that. That's fine. What matters most is the primary call to action.
Hey, Jen,
Yes.
do you think it works because they appear to me to look like infographics? Do you think it works because it's set up that way and that's kind of a trending thing that the infographics pop?
The question is it looks like an infographic, is that why it's effective? I think that the branding is strong, the illustrations are nice, it complements it well, and so that's good for the brand. I think that a different layout probably would have resulted in very similar results. But I do like the graphics. They're kind of cool. They do have that a little bit of an infographic feel. I haven't thought of it that way. The thing that stands out to me is the big 92. Like, you're gonna save $92. Yeah, it could be the design. I haven't looked at this I don't have a live version of these emails, and so all I had were screen caps. I don't know how it renders on mobile devices. So that could be a factor, is like how slick does it look on mobile? How many people are opening it on mobile? What's the experience beyond the click on mobile? Hard to say. But yes.
Actually used to work at AAA.
Do you have insights for us?
The campaigns all somewhat mimic what the website looks like.
All right, so it's just branding. It just looks like the website. That's a good reason for it to look this way. Cool. Any other insights you can share with us? No. This just went live a few months ago, so these are all new messages. All right, so that campaign matrix that we looked at before the break, where you're filling in the blanks of the campaigns that you have that exist right now, figure out where the gaps are and where you could introduce something that is a welcome campaign or an onboarding campaign throughout wherever those gaps are. So it's that top row. Also, your onboarding and welcome campaigns, we shouldn't be thinking in the email vacuum. A cohesive strategy is going to be cross-channel, right? So we invented a fictional journey at Iterable for one of our webinars last year. What it might look like for someone to have, people who are on the receiving end of our marketing, they're not thinking like about the email channel. They're thinking holistically about the touches that they have with a campaign, with a brand. So, and there aren't a lot of really terrific examples of cross-channel onboarding strategies. So we tried to invent what we would think of as a best-in-class campaign. It could involve brick and mortar visits, SMS, push, in-app messaging. And in an ideal world, it's something that would be unique to each person and the behaviors that they're showing. So from one person to the next, it's a different journey. If you're interested in this, it is available on that landing page. It's an on-demand webinar, so we recorded it last year, so you can find it there. You can laugh at my really terrible graphic design examples for the email. I'm not a good graphic designer, as you can see from my slides, but the strategy, I think, is pretty strong. So hopefully you can find some inspiration there if you really want to focus on your welcome campaigns and introducing some cross-channel elements to that. But if you're only focused on email, there's great examples there on how you can leverage email, especially for progressive profiling. All right, so Gaspar is back because best practices are BS, and so are most industry studies. Disengaged subscribers. We want to delete them, right? It's a best practice. They're not opening our email. They're not clicking on our email. We got to chuck them. They're out of here like Vladimir, into the night like Fright, cruising like Susan, leaving like Steven. See you later, alligator. That was overkill, wasn't it? So I'm here to argue that deleting your disengaged subscribers is a steaming heap of BS, and people get very upset with me because this has gotten a lot of traction in the email industry, especially among people in the deliverability specialty. The first argument is it's a waste of money to spend money marketing to people who are not engaging, right? You're just burning cash. And the second argument is engagement is relevant to deliverability. If people aren't engaging with your email, you got to get rid of them so to be certain that you are inboxing. And in my opinion, we've gone a little overboard with these ideas. So Iterable surveyed our customers, and we asked them, when are you deleting disengaged subscribers? And we didn't define what is disengaged. That's kind of up for you to decide what that means to you. But we found that more than half of our customers were deleting people out of their campaigns if they saw 0 clicks and 0 opens in the last 3 months. And that's crazy aggressive, you guys. Right? That's nuts. I mean, how long does it take for somebody to make a decision about buying your product or buying it a second time? How long is a typical buying cycle? Is it cyclical? Is it something they would do over and over? Is it something that it could take years for them to do a second time? So deleting people at that 90-day mark, that's bonkers. And so I asked, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? And they're like, well, it's a best practice. And also, I don't want to pay for overages. I want to keep my database small. You're charging me for every person in my database, or you're charging me for every email I send, because that fraction of a penny is going to break you. I wrote a crazy diatribe about this. So if you are deleting very aggressively and you need to make a case, backtrack, that survey is available here, but right next to it, that email list pruning article is what I'm alluding to now. I wrote a lot of ideas about this concept, so if you need some to back up an argument to keep people on your list, that's a great place to start. But most people are not opening your messages. It doesn't mean that they don't want them. It doesn't mean that they want to disengage from your brand. If they want to disengage from your brand, they will. They will unsubscribe. They will mark you as spam. They will take the action should you be making decisions for them. There's a KPI that we cannot quantify when it comes to email marketing, and that is impressions in the inbox. So we don't know how many eyeballs have seen our subject line, have seen our from name, have seen that little sliver of the pre-header, right? And by existing in the inbox, you're keeping your brand top of mind, even if you're not seeing obvious, quantifiable engagement. There is a man named Delaquist who is a little bit like me, but like the tall male UK version. He kind of likes to bust best practices too. He's someone that when I was a practitioner that I admired. He's a very controversial guy, which I think is very interesting about him. But he did a study. He owned an agency. He did a study to see if he could quantify the ripple effect of subject lines and impressions among audiences of people who haven't shown email engagement. Is it influencing purchasing behavior? And his finding was yes. So when he looked at a group of people who were receiving email, not interacting with email, and also purchasing, not purchasing, when he connected the dots, the email was influencing purchase outside of the email channel. So people might go directly to a website, or they might walk into a store, or they might pick up the phone and call, even if they didn't open the email. So he quantified that connection. And sometimes people are just like, maybe they're buying for a friend. Maybe this is a B2B purchase and they are in the very early stages of some kind of research. Maybe it's going to be a couple of years, depending on what it is you're trying to sell them, before they get to the point of converting. But they're accepting you into their inbox. Now, I will say, if you are seeing deliverability issues, you've got to address that, right? You've got to triage that problem. You need to suppress your disengaged while you fix your deliverability problems, but that doesn't mean that you need to suppress them in perpetuity. So I have a customer that asked me to have a look at their campaign performance month over month, or well, just to look at their campaign performance. I chose to look at it month over month. Let's see what you got, how are things going, and we looked at 2018 performance from January to November, because that was what it was available to us at that time. And I saw a trend. I saw open rates declining. I saw click rates declining. And it kind of seemed like it was something that was happening in the middle of the year. Something maybe changed. And I asked her about it, like, what's going on? Like, I'm seeing click rates and open rates fall off. And she said, well, I got a new manager. And we used to delete the disengaged at 90 days, but we stopped over the summer, and now our click rates are going down, and our open rates are going down, and I'm really worried. And that's the argument I get a lot for like deleting these disengaged subscribers. Like, we did it, we deleted them at 90 days or 45 days or 6 months or whatever it is, and our open rates went up and our click rates went up. Well, of course they did, because math and logic, right? That's gonna happen. But our open and click rates, the end all, be all. So when she said, I'm really worried, I've got a squeaky spot here. It might fall through. So when she said, I'm worried, I said, don't be, because here's what's happening. Your open volume is going up, and there is a seasonal pop at the end here, right? This was a B2C e-com company, and they were selling gifts the holidays. So that big pop in November is definitely seasonal. But even before then, right there in June, where we hit rock bottom because they've stopped suppressing, and then it starts going up. So unique open volume was up because they were reaching more people. Unique click volume was going up because they were reaching more people. Purchases were up. This is a Maserati. You like that transition? All right, who here owns a Maserati? No one? Yeah, me neither. Who here wants to own a Maserati? Tesla? Whatever the car of your dream is, imagine it here. All right, if you want to own a Maserati, how are you going to get there? Right? Are you going to clip 35-cent Charmin coupons out of the newspaper, drop those pennies into a jar, and save up until you've got a down payment? Right? Because if you're trying to save money on your marketing budget by sending less email to fewer people, that's what you're doing. You're dropping pennies in a jar. Maybe if you really want this Maserati, you need a better job. Maybe you shouldn't work in email marketing. Maybe you want to become some kind of financial consultant down on Wall Street or something. But you would have to level up your income in a meaningful way. And you can accomplish that if you have a greater reach with your audience. So as an email marketer, you want a bigger audience that you can market to. And if you're minimizing your potential success, you're never going to drive this Maserati. So if you're limiting your financial success by working in, not email marketing. Email marketing is one of the best paying channels, honestly. And if you're really good, you probably could get a Maserati. There are consultants who make about $200 an hour. Not me. But maybe I'll charge you that much so I can get a Maserati. But the point is, you've got to make more money. So focus on the bigger picture, right? You should be asking for more budget, right? Is there anyone else managing a different channel on your team who's like, I would like less money, please? Right? Are the display folks on your team going, we need a smaller budget for display advertising? No, let's take a cue from these people. Like, they are just shamelessly taking up all of the budget. We deserve more. We have a 37-to-1 ROI. So if you want a Maserati, stop putting pennies in a jar and level up your strategy to reach a bigger audience. This is from an article on our blog about email acquisition and growing your list. And it's got lots of great suggestions on acquisition strategies. But if you look closely here, you can see that if you have a list that's maybe $250,000 versus $300,000, it might cost you, in a typical situation, $80 extra to send email to that extra 50,000 people that you might have identified as disengaged, right? But the revenue would outweigh that. So you're going to make more money than you otherwise would. Now, your open rate, yeah, maybe it went down a little. Your click rate, maybe it went down a little. But your open volume went up, your click volume went up, your orders went up, conversions went up, profit went up. So 12% more revenue, maybe 18% more profit. You can do your own math and try to calculate how this might apply to you. Because it's BS. Thank you, Gaspar. He'll be back. All right, and I mentioned that article. I think this is the slide that circles it. There it is. That's my crazy diatribe in written form with a little more detail than I shared with you now. All right, we're going to talk about re-engagement that rocks. That's the part where everyone's like, Jen Capstraw tries way too hard. That's actually happened. People have put that in the comments. Very mean. It's cool. You can say mean stuff. I'm tough. All right, re-engagement. Re-engagement is what happens when people aren't engaging. We want to re-engage them. This is a very complex part of the workshop, you guys. Why do we need re-engagement? Our audiences are distracted. They are inundated with marketing messages. They're surrounded by billboards and advertisements, and things are popping up on your phone and your computer all the time. And our attention span is shrinking aggressively, about 8 seconds, according to Microsoft. So there's a lot going on, and we've got a finite amount of time to get somebody's attention. And sometimes we fail to get their attention, and so re-engagement is our fallback plan. So my friends Tim Watson of Zetasphere and Jordi Van Ryn of Email Monday, who, by the way, has the greatest name ever, Jordi Van Ryn, even better than Della Quist, right? All these guys are EU side. They did a study of consumer behavior, and they asked folks, hey, tell us about your inbox habits, asked a bunch of survey questions, including, why do you not unsubscribe from the brands that you're ignoring? And this is a grain of salt survey. It's a source of inspiration. It's not the end-all, be-all authority on consumer inbox behavior, but it's a good starting point. And what they found was the folks that they surveyed said they're either waiting for the right offer, you haven't enticed me just yet, or I'm going to buy again, just not right now, right? So I'm okay with this being in my inbox so that I know it's there when I need it. Because we've adopted a real, an inventory mentality when it comes to our email, and the advent of Gmail tabs is an element of that. We're okay with email kind of piling up there because it's not in our face. Right? We go there when we need it. We skim it every now and then. We'll search on it when we have something particular that we want to purchase or research. So we're very tolerant of the volume of email we're receiving. And I did some very sophisticated math. I added these two numbers together, discovered that the majority of folks, you have a shot at converting still. Right? So this also goes back to why we shouldn't be deleting them. So what are the differences between re-engagement campaigns, reactivation campaigns, win-back campaigns? Well, I can't get enough of this meme, so I did it again. There I am. All right, so we're just going to use the term re-engagement as a blanket catch-all to describe all of these types of campaigns. Anytime you're trying to spur an action that we've previously tried to get them to take, but it didn't work out, we're just going to call that re-engagement. So what does it actually do? Well, any campaign that we send out needs to have an objective and needs to ask the recipient to take an action. This should be universal to every single one of your campaigns. And that action that we want them to take, heretofore I shall refer to as that thing. Any Lauryn Hill fans here? Yeah. I haven't come up with a catchy Lauryn Hill email song yet. I'll work on it though. But that thing is the action that they haven't taken, that we still want them to take, and that we've created a re-engagement campaign to get them to do. So re-engagement is nudging them to take that action. That thing, that thing, that thing. Stuck in your head yet? I'm a great singer. Actually, I was in show choir in high school, and I won a national competition in Orlando. So it's good to be back with my fans. Thank you. So basically, what you need to ask yourself for each one of your campaigns is, did they do that thing? And if they didn't, there are 3 ways to try to get them to do the thing. This is complex. You can ask them again to do the thing. It seems simple, but it's not happening that much. There are a lot of companies that have no re-engagement campaigns at all. If they do not respond to being asked to do the thing, You can try mixing it up a little. You can ask them, do you still want to do the thing? And finally, if the thing is still not happening, or there's no chance of it happening, or you've lost them altogether, there's a chance to collect some extra data points and ask why, what happened? And that might offer some insights to improve your strategy. It might enable you to capture data points that you can use for future targeting that's more accurate. So I've got lots and lots of examples of that for you. Email is typically your best channel for re-engagement. Other channels are sometimes worthwhile, depending on your vertical and your strategy. And that benchmark report that I mentioned, take it with a grain of salt, source of inspiration only. We asked our customers, what are you using? Pretty much everybody said, we're using email. And we've got like a very tech-centric customer base. Like a lot of our customers have apps or subscription programs, but they're still very reliant on good old-fashioned email marketing for re-engagement. Okay, so step one was ask them to do the thing again. So I've got some great examples of that. And it's something that you want to happen at every single step in the life cycle. This is where we're losing sight of our re-engagement opportunities. It's not just when they're not engaging with email, generally speaking, it's when they're not taking the step we want them to take. So we can have unique re-engagement at every single step of the way. And this is just a really pared down representation of a life cycle. But you know, if someone is aware of your brand, they haven't converted, hey, finish what you've started. Or they haven't moved on to serious consideration, rather. If they have given you consideration, they haven't moved along and made the purchase, hey, you need to do that. You need to make that purchase. Oh, you bought, but you didn't buy again? We miss you. They've become loyal, but maybe they have dropped off in their loyalty. How are we doing? Are things okay over there? Come back to us. And finally, what we most often think of when we think of re-engagement, those breakup messages. Should we still be together? Do you want to stay on my list? Yes, no, or maybe. So I've got examples for you between awareness and consideration to start. This is a message from Splice. Splice is a desktop application used by musicians to share their music and tracks and interact with other musicians and collaborate online. So if you go through the sign-up process on Splice, you fill out all the application or the sign-up form, and then you get to the point where they're like, okay, and now you have to download an application to your computer. That's a big ask, right? People are like, oh, download. No thanks, right? So they lose people at that point, but they front-loaded that sign-up form, right? They've got your email address, so they ask you to come back. Here's our value prop. You need to come back and you need to download it because it's a terrific opportunity for you to collaborate with other musicians. All of those clothing subscription services, right? They make you fill out these forms that like go on for days and days and days, like, which of these colors do you like? Which of these patterns do you like? Which best suits your style? What is your size of your hips? You know, all those embarrassing questions. You go through, and then they're like, okay, and now give us your credit card. And you're like, oh, I'm not sure about this. I just wanted to see what happened at the end of the quiz. Right? But they captured your email address so they can keep remarketing to you and ask you to come back and give them your money. All right, some examples here between consideration and conversion. A6 Studio is one of our customers at Iterable, and the gentleman there who is in charge of re-engagement campaigns has the hardest job in all of email marketing because his success is reliant on you sticking to your fitness commitment. So if you're not exercising, he's not doing his job. So this is the first re-engagement message you get if you've downloaded the A6 Studio app, which you can open up the app and you can do these little workout routines with Coach Aaron, you know, on your phone in your hotel room. I do that every morning. No, I still haven't done it. I get these messages constantly. So you get a message from Coach Aaron. She's like, hey, I know you downloaded the app. You haven't worked out with me yet. You should try it. Just saying. Look how fit I am. I'm Coach Aaron. Okay. Avocode, you had a free trial of something, you want to convert someone from a freemium to a premium, that's the point in which you say, hey, wasn't that great? Gave you something for nothing. Now why don't you show us a little love? I love this example from Bonobos. You left something in a cart. Here's a big yellow chicken man. Get your attention. Abandoned cart is like, I've already mentioned that it's your number one ROI campaign, but it's also kind of the ultimate in re-engagement. Someone has shown such a specific interest in something, and it's a behavior-based trigger, and it's timely, and these are really effective. Abandoned browse can also be effective if you do not have a cart. Abandoned browse is something you can capitalize on. ShopRunner is one of our customers at Iterable, and this is their abandoned browse campaign. Now they have one of those gated websites, so you have to log in, and they are tracking every single step you take. They know all of your behaviors, and if you, for instance, were looking at really hideous men's sandals, right, but you didn't put them in your cart, you didn't buy them, you might get a message like this. It's like, hey, this is Courtney. Courtney, here are your ugly sandals you were so interested in, but also some other things we think you'll be interested in. And what's really interesting to me here is that it's not a whole bunch of ugly sandals, it's other product categories. So we got wallets, we got a jacket, we got jeans, we got socks, and they've got some kind of secret sauce algorithm that powers these recommendations, and they know that this works better than just showing you loads and loads of shoes. They will not tell us how they're doing it. But they did write an article about this campaign, and they also spoke at our conference about this campaign. And there's a video of that available on our website. I forgot to put it on that landing page. If you want a link to it, jen@iterable.com, I'll send that to you. But basically, they're seeing higher engagement, more conversions by sending this abandoned browse campaign. And I've got my favorite abandoned browse campaign in history. I'm going to present at my session tomorrow, so don't miss that. All right, so what about re-engaging after someone has made a first purchase, but you haven't made them loyal? So I buy stuff at World Market every now and then, not that often. So when they try to lure me back, they're like, hey, Jen, here is a crappy discount of 10% off, right? It's something, it's a little something. So if you're interested in buying something, maybe this will tip the scales, but you don't spend enough money with us for us to really give you the big discount. It's like, cool, I get it. You delivered a table to me with a dent, and I failed to report it or get it fixed or return it or anything. This is cool. At first glance, probably doesn't seem overwhelmingly cool. I'm going to tell you what is super cool about this re-engagement campaign from Blue Apron. So this is one of those food delivery services where you're too lazy to go to the grocery store or sign up for allrecipes.com and figure out recipes. Blue Apron makes it easy. They deliver food to your door with step-by-step instructions, right? And people subscribe and they get the food delivery every week, but maybe something in your life changes and you cancel. You stop your subscription. Well, Blue Apron wants your money. Right? They want to bring you back, so they launched a re-engagement campaign, and they're like, hey, you used to be a customer, you should be a customer again, do you want to reactivate your deliveries? And they had great success with this campaign. You click, like, yeah, resume deliveries, go to landing page, you process your credit card and so forth, off you go, Blue Apron's coming back to you on your front doorstep. However, they wondered, can we increase conversions on this campaign if we simplify the checkout process? If we minimize the friction, can we make more money? So what they did was they implemented an interactive email campaign. Anyone here experimenting with interactivity in email yet? I think I saw a couple. Yeah, Tiger. Tiger's on it. He has the best name in the room. So they set it up so that you could transact in the inbox. And this isn't supported by every email client, but it's supported by some email clients. So what happens is you got an email, and it had a little checkbox, confirm $59.94 a week with the card ending in whatever. You check the box, you click resume deliveries, and the transaction happens right there in the inbox. You don't have to go to a landing page. You don't have to click any more confirmations. It happens right there instantaneously. And there's like a little disclaimer down below about how your credit card is going to be charged and all of that. Now, it's not supported in every email client, as I mentioned, so it's also designed so that in the environments where it's not going to work, it gracefully degrades so that you revert to the old experience of clicking on the call to action and going to a landing page where you can conduct the transaction. So regardless of how you're receiving this email, it's going to be a great experience, but if inbox interactivity is possible in your email client, it's going to be even better. And they said they definitely saw a lift in conversions when they implemented this strategy by just making it a little bit easier, one less step. All right, so looking at the steps between loyalty and awareness. So I work from home when I'm not at conferences like this. And that means I live in pajamas. So even when I do webinars, I'm like business up top, lounge act on the bottom. I've got lucky webinar pants with like sheep on them, and I'll have like my little button-down top and my statement jewelry up above. So if you join my webinars, just know that's happening every single time. So I spend tons of money on cozy, stretchy things from Soma. And they love me for that, so I get the big discounts. If they notice that I haven't bought 15 pairs of like stretchy pants and muumuus over the last few months, they'll send me giant offers, like 50% off. So I've been super loyal to them, and so they are returning the favor to regain my loyalty. The breakup. All right, so we've all gotten these messages where we're not engaging with email. We get a message asking us to please engage with email. Now, the Skim took a little bit of a different approach here. I didn't engage with the Skim for a while, and rather than saying, hey, you're not engaging with our email, they're like, we noticed you're not engaging with our email. Is it because you're not receiving it? They know I'm receiving it. And I'm not saying I necessarily endorse this strategy, but it's interesting and worth talking about and thinking about. So they give you some instructions here on how to add them to your contacts, which could potentially improve their deliverability. They've got some suggestions here for folks who are using Apple Mail. Would have been a little bit better if they had segmented based on your rendering environment and didn't tell me about Apple Mail because I don't use it. But just kind of a different way to approach re-engagement when people are not opening and clicking on your emails. Humor is really effective when it comes to re-engagement, because if someone is not opening your email, how do you get them to open your re-engagement email? Like, those subject lines have to pop, and so you have to reserve your best ideas a lot of times for the re-engagement campaigns. And this is an example from The Hustle, and the subject line was "Save Our Intern." Right? He's gonna get fired because you're not opening his emails. So I got like screenshots of an exchange between him and the CEO, and his heart is broken. Poor Kyle, right? So we all feel sad for Kyle. We laugh at the email. We've fallen into their trap, right? We opened it up. We wanted to find out about the intern, so it's done its job. All right, so step one was asking them again to do the thing. Step two, do you still want to do the thing? We see this strategy most often at that breakup point. We're just seeing no email engagement. We want to ask if they want to stay on our mailing list. And Pottery Barn sent me this message. I was not opening up any messages for a while, and I got this exclamation point emoji. Action required. We've really missed you. Please confirm. And I've used a similar subject line strategy, a little bit softer, right? Like action requested. Nicely, please. Action required from Pottery Barn. Like, what's going to happen? Is my sofa going to explode? Probably not. So this is slightly aggressive, but it's effective. And it is really important to get that open during a re-engagement campaign. So this typically works. And then when you open it up, oh, we miss you. Do you still want to stay on our mailing list? Yes or no? And there is some kind of magical psychology of response when you introduce yes, no buttons, or even multiple choice buttons of any kind. But yes, no in particular are so perfectly simple. And people will click and click and click. And I've seen strategies like this produce click rates of up to 6% on an audience that was disengaged for 12 months. 6% click rate is phenomenal on any campaign. On a re-engagement campaign, it's crazy high. Now, the majority of those clicks were no, I am not interested in you anymore. And that is fine, right? They can unsubscribe or they can opt down or whatever you want to do with that audience, but give them that opportunity to step away if it's not the right fit for them. The folks who don't engage at all, I'm not a fan of deleting them, as you can probably guess, but you do still get some yeses. And I love this strategy. It works so well, and you see it in a lot of places. So envelopes.com, you want to be friends? Yes, totally, we're still friends. No, we're not friends anymore, sad face. Email on Acid is a vendor in the email space. They've got great thought leadership, but if you're not opening up your email and reading it, then they send you this re-engagement message, and it's the yes, no buttons again. Yes, I want to stay on the list. No, I do not. But I like that they added a third option here. Right? What do they really want you to do? What is their overarching business objective? It's to get you to try their product and eventually become a paying customer. They offer rendering of email so you can see what it looks like in different email clients. So you can be sure that your design and dev is all buttoned up before you push your emails out the door. I want to start a free trial. Right, so that's really the ultimate goal of everything they're doing. So I love that they inserted it here as a third option. Return Path is another vendor in the email space. So this is not the message they currently send, but it's one they sent previously. And they want to know, do you still want to stay on our mailing list? They show you this little animation of the actions they want you to take on the landing page. But again, we've got that yes, no strategy. Do you want to stay on our list? Yes, I'll stay. Happy bouncing koala, drawing attention to the action we want you to take. Or no, I'll go. Sad monkey, right? I love this use of animation to draw attention to the action that they want you to take. All right, here's an example between awareness and consideration. I showed you this example earlier. We can't reach you. I had clients that needed to be connected by phone with somebody. They filled out a form, showed an interest, did not connect so that they could be qualified and moved on to the next step in the life cycle. So for compliance reasons, we needed them to re-opt in so that we could continue to try to call them. So we needed them to say, yes, I'm still interested, and go to a landing page and confirm that interest so that we could keep trying to reach them because TCPA compliance has a finite window. All right, so our third strategy for re-engagement, they ask you again to do the thing, ask you if you still want to do the thing, and then why didn't you do the thing? So here's an example after the consideration phase. Again, our friends at A6 Studio, and what I love about this is that they take a page from the B2B playbook and they apply it to B2C. So what are the reasons you're not working out with Coach Aaron on our app? Is it because you don't want to pay for the app? Is it because you're not sure you're going to like it? Is it because you don't have a gym membership? Is it because you don't have the time to work out? And one of these answers probably applies to the recipient. So when you put the option in front of them that applies to them, there's a higher chance they're going to engage. They're going to let you know. They're going to click. And you have that opportunity to overcome the objection. You have the opportunity to create engagement, right? So I think this is a terrific strategy. All right, after conversion, is it a one-and-done purchase? All right, so this is a subscription service called CISO. You've broken up with them, right? I was a member. I was paying for a subscription. I've canceled. That sucks, but can you tell us why? Can you take our survey? Can you give us more information? And you could potentially, in a survey, ask some questions that help you to make informed marketing campaigns going forward. Like, hey, are you pausing it for a certain period of time because of a lifestyle change? Like, maybe you're traveling Europe for the next 3 months and you're going to turn it back on when you come back. You know, if you can find clever ways to capture little data points, you can segment and target going forward. So surveys can be used in very creative ways. We see them also at the breakup stage. Panera, this was someone who's like a member of the loyalty program, and they're in Panera, they're buying those giant bread bowls full of soup every Tuesday at 2 p.m., but they're not engaging with email. And so as a loyal customer, Panera's like, hey, we know you love us, so we're gonna ask you to tell us what's going on. Why are you really not into our email marketing? And then our friends at the Skim again, they invite you to reply like, hey, what's going on? What is it that you don't like? Let us know what's going on. Why are you not engaging? All right, so who here is using Net Promoter Score and sending these out by email? All right, so maybe 15 to 20% of you. I bought a lot of glasses from Warby Parker because I'm getting old and I can't see things anymore. However, I can't wear them up here because they're progressive lenses and it makes the ground move and I'll fall off the stage. So I'm not wearing them right now. But when I bought them, they sent me a survey, the Net Promoter Score survey. What is your likelihood to recommend us to a friend? We've all gotten these. So if you're unfamiliar with NPS, that's all it is, likelihood to recommend to a friend. And a lot of companies are using this score as a really important KPI. And sometimes they'll set goals like, oh, we want to increase it like 0.25% or whatever it is. So these are common, and it's a great way to engage and get feedback. And the folks who score you a 9 or 10, they're considered promoters. These are your most loyal customers. There's an opportunity to capitalize on them, to advocate for your brand. You got folks who score you 7 or 8. They're kind of indifferent. They think you're okay. But if you're scored a 6 or below, they're really not that into you. Something is not cool with them. So you can go to, I think it's netpromoter.com or something similar to that if you want to find out more about NPS scoring, if it's something you're not familiar with. But it's being underutilized as a re-engagement strategy and an opportunity for targeting and segmentation. So, let's say folks are giving you a 9 or 10. Well, you could have targeted campaigns to them to help make them champions of your brand and encourage them to maybe do refer a friend or to thank them in some way. And then people who are at the other end of the spectrum who really don't like you, well, that's an opportunity to target them as well and to try to mitigate those problems. So NPS, it shouldn't end at the moment of scoring. It shouldn't be just a number that you're tallying and showing, every quarter at the big marketing meeting. It's something you can do something with. And I like this example from Insurify. I like the visual presentation, the red to green, so it's obvious to me that red is bad and green is good. All right, so to recap, re-engagement shouldn't be happening in a bubble. It's weird if someone is engaging with your brand outside of the email channel and then they get a message that's just like, why don't you like us anymore? Do you still want to stay on our list? And you're like, I'm walking out of your store right now. Like, what are you talking about? So where possible, figure out what are the other data points you can pull in so that you're not sending re-engagement to people who are engaged with your brand, but they're not necessarily engaged with the email channel. And our takeaways, that thing, you should have an objective and a call to action in every campaign, not just re-engagement. Re-engagement campaigns should correspond with all of your life cycle campaigns when people aren't taking the steps that you want them to take. And your opportunities, ask them to do it again, ask them if they still want to do it, ask them why it's not happening. Think about Net Promoter Score. Maybe you can leverage that. Yes. I'm gonna do it anyway.
Thank you so much, Jen. I appreciate looking at it. Would that be a good way to do your campaign then, to do more of a poll? Like, do you, you don't open my emails, but do you purchase in the store? Do you use our online store or something? Is that the way you would figure
should you use email to ask them if they're engaging with your brand in other ways? Is the question. If it is impossible for you to get access to those data points and make them part of how you qualify people for re-engagement campaigns, then it's a very good idea to ask them in email. Because sometimes you are on email island and you don't have all of the data points you want. And if that's the case, yeah, I love just using the channel to ask the question, hey, we noticed you're not opening our emails. However, we're wondering X, Y, and Z. Sure, definitely. And use those call to action buttons as that first survey question, so it's easy, and with one click, you've got those answers. And you can even segment on that. If you have an amazing email service provider like Iterable, you can instantly add them to a list and target them for a campaign. Others, you might have to do a little heavy lifting. All right, that's the last time I sell to you from the stage. Use whatever you want. I'm just here to inspire you. All right, tomorrow afternoon, I'll be presenting the feng shui of modern email. There will be more terrible jokes and maybe another zombie. All right, so I hope you join me. All right, I've got a question for you. Let's say a multinational technology manufacturer has email subscribers in Ireland. You're having a marketing meeting, and somebody says, I got it. Why don't we send an email in Gaelic to people in Ireland? Should they do a test? Who says yes? Okay. Anyone else say yes? Only this side is believing in this. Okay, who says no? Who's feeling shy and they're scared you're going to get the answer wrong? All right, so my no's were over here. Why? Why should you not do a test?
How are you even supposed to know the preferences of somebody being able to read an in-language type email and how it's going to even render and look right for them?
Rendering concerns,
Reading.
can they read it?
There's so many wrong problems.
And more. And more. Anyone else have an idea why it would be bad? They speak English in Ireland. Excellent point. It's just a bad idea? Somebody asked this question in a group of email marketers, and everyone was like, oh, you should test that. You should totally test that. You should test it. You should test everything. You should test this and that and the other. Like, always test, 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 test. You got to be testing. Because that's what we do in email marketing, right? We test everything. All right, stop immediately testing everything. I know that some of you are doing an A/B subject line test on every single campaign you send out. I'm giving you permission to stop now. So it's a bad idea to do that test for a lot of reasons, but one of them is most people don't speak Gaelic in Ireland. But they do all speak English, so spot on over here and here, essentially the same point. They're all fluent in English. Also, like, what would the user experience be if they're like reading something in Gaelic and then they go to a page that's in English? Like, are you translate the whole website into Gaelic now for 1.7% of the Irish population, which is maybe 10% of your whole mailing list? Like, does that make any sense? Level of effort is also pretty high for something like that. You've got to hire a translator, and you've got to proof it somehow, and you've got to test it and segment it. It's kind of a nightmare. All right, so we're all testing because we keep hearing that we have to, but we're doing it wrong most of the time. Nearly everyone's done at least a subject line test, and that is the most common A/B test that we see. Sometimes people try to test hero images, call to action buttons, different kinds of copy and creative, but we kind of stink at A/B testing, and he's back. God, did I flake on his name? I did. Gaspar. Gaspar is calling BS on test everything. We want to test smart, and in most cases, we shouldn't be testing at all. So test everything? Kind of BS, because email marketers are not statisticians and our tests are dumb. Right? We're testing because we're told it's a best practice and it's a thing that you should be doing. That's why I was testing. But our findings are not necessarily meaningful. Our tests are not necessarily scientific, right? And we're using our biases to set up these tests. We're setting up tests where it's like identical subject lines, except this one has an emoji, this one doesn't. This one has first name personalization, this one doesn't. Or this one is really terrible, and I know this one's good, and this one's gonna win. So these are not good tests. These are terrible tests. And it makes me sad that there are people that I love and respect in the email industry who are perpetuating this idea that you have to test everything. Testing and optimization is important, but we're spending too much time on bad tests. And sometimes you shouldn't be testing at all. Especially B2B, your audiences tend to be small. And if your database is less than like 70 or 80,000, there is probably not a case in which you can set up a test that is statistically meaningful at all for subject line. And that means the even smaller audience that is opening your email that you could test for a creative test is so irrelevant and meaningless. So sometimes you shouldn't be testing at all, and the level of effort is just not always justified. But if you are gonna test, let's test right. So here are some tips. You need to figure out, what is your goal of your test? Are you trying to maximize open rates? Write that down, document it. I want to do X, Y, Z. This is the goal of my test. You have to figure out the correct number of splits to have a meaningful test. This is where we really go awry. Usually we've got version A, version B, right? We read an article that said, orange call to action buttons perform better than blue. And you're like, oh, but my CTAs are blue. I must test this immediately. Especially when it comes to subject lines, you need to have a multitude of versions to be absolutely certain that your test is meaningful. And I've got like a quick reference chart on the number of splits that you need to have absolute confidence in your test results. And I also am going to show you a link for a calculator to help you determine splits. But most of the time, we're not doing enough, and the best tests for subject lines, it's usually 10 different versions. Do you have time to write 10 different subject lines? Can you even think of 10 different subject lines? Then you've got to launch your test, and you have to make sure that it's running for a long enough period of time. We make this mistake all the time, where we run a test for an hour, maybe 2 hours. We call a winner and call it a day. We launch the winning version. And then we notice that the results of the test are not in any way mirroring the results of the rest of the campaign. There's a big delta there. Like, why did the test perform this way, but the campaign performed that way? And I did all of these terrible tests over and over and over again before the light bulb went off, and I'm like, what am I doing? None of this makes any sense. I'm spinning my wheels. I'm doing this because I keep reading articles that say I have to, but I don't really know what's going on. And so part of my problem was I wasn't running my tests for a long enough period of time. Now, this is some science speak that you can take back to the boss. You need to run an email test for 2 email half-lives. Right? Remember science? Remember half-lives? There is such a thing as an email half-life, and if you want a test that matters, it needs to run for 2 email half-lives. What is a half-life? Well, it's the period of time that it takes for 50% of your audience that's going to engage to actually engage. So 2 email half-lives would be half of that audience plus half of the rest that haven't engaged yet. So essentially, it's the period of time that it takes for 75% of the test audience that's going to engage to actually engage. And if you dove into your historic data and you love pivot tables, you could probably calculate what your audience's actual half-life is and be like, it's 3.54 hours, and that's how long we have to run all of our tests, and like blow some minds. Or you can go with the industry average, which is roughly 4 hours. That was the easy answer. And you need to learn from your tests. The purpose of testing is to learn right? So that you can make better decisions going forward. But if we're just testing everything over and over and over and over, like, why? Right? If you know that a specific word or style of language or emoji works, how can you use that information going forward? Should you keep testing it over and over and over again? No, right? You shouldn't be wasting your time with that. You should be learning and documenting it. However, when it comes to those takeaways and things that you are learning, you have to be careful, right? Again, we're not statisticians, and correlation does not necessarily equal causation. So this map on the left shows you where mad cow disease broke out in the UK, and the map on the right shows you the areas that voted for Brexit. Is there a connection? My friends in London say I can never show this slide across the pond. Don't do it. Right, but we can't make that assumption that they're all damaged from mad cow disease, right? So sometimes the assumptions we make about our test results are not quite right. So a good test is going to maximize return while minimizing opportunity cost, and what that means is that you send the bad versions to the smallest number of people possible while still ensuring that your test results are meaningful. Easy, right? It's not easy at all. We want our results to be meaningful, right? If we've got like just a sliver of a fraction of a percent difference between this and that, does it result in anything? Learning. We need to be educating ourselves as we're doing these tests, and we don't want to use downstream metrics to determine a winner. For example, if you're testing subject lines, you do not determine your winner by the number of clicks you get. People get upset with me when I say that. And there are a lot of people who are industry experts who stand by that statement, that you should be looking at how do you maximize your clicks and conversions, your revenue and profit, and that's the winner, right, no matter what it is that you're testing. But scientifically speaking, you're only testing for the nearest conversion point, right? So if you're testing subject lines, you're only testing to maximize open rate, because there are so many potential variations of things that could happen throughout the rest of the user journey that can throw those results, right? You have one outlier who makes a big, crazy purchase, and it skews the whole thing, and you're like, oh, this is the winner because we had revenue of 100% more on this campaign versus that campaign, but it was just like one oddball who threw it. Is it really because it was the subject line he got? No. The argument that I get, though, is that I don't care about open rate. I care about conversions. And I know that some of my tests, if I'm testing subject lines, that certain subject lines produce low open rate, high click rate, and some produce high open rate, low click rate. So riddle me that, Jen Capstraw. Well, I can. Of course I can. If you have a subject line that is very specific, that tells folks explicitly what the value prop is, what you can expect to find inside of this email, people self-select. They self-segment based on that subject line whether or not they want to open it. And if it's very clear to them that they want to open it, they will. For instance, let's say you sell liquor, right? And the subject line says, September is our tequila fiesta. Tequila lovers open now, right? If you love tequila, you're going to open that email, and you know that there's a deal on tequila, and you want to buy the tequila, and you're going to click, and you're going to carry through to the website. If you like vodka, you're not going to open the tequila message, right? You've self-segmented. It's not relevant to me. I'm not interested. However, if the subject line is, we've got super savings on our spirit of the month, open up to find out what's inside, tequila and vodka lovers are going to open that, but only the tequila lovers are going to click through. So by inspiring curiosity, you're going to have a higher open rate, and then when it gets more specific, that's when the click rate drops off. And vice versa, if it's going to be a very low open rate when only tequila people are opening. Right? So this is not an apples for apples A/B subject line test. This is a test of two overarching strategies. Make sense? Cool. This chart tells you roughly how many versions of a subject line you need to have confidence that you have used a version, that you have tested a version that will maximize the highest possible open rate. Take it with a grain of salt. Also, I've got and you can find that in that slide deck because I know that went by really fast, but 10 for 99%, 6 for 92%, right? And if you only have 2, it's still less than 60% chance that you've maximized open rate. Still better than half, but not amazing. And Phrasee, Phrasee.co is a really cool company that uses AI for subject line testing. They've got a calculator that you can find on their website, Phrasee.co/resources/splits. If you use this calculator, it is like a lead gen form, so you'll land on their mailing list. But their newsletter is amazing and hilarious and weird, so it'll be awesome. And they don't spam, and you can opt out at any time. So definitely check that out, and it'll tell you how many splits you should have. Fun fact, if it tells you to have 2 splits, that's their nice way of saying don't test this. Just saying. So if it gives you at least 3, then you have a meaningful test. And also, we did a webinar. I did a webinar with one of the co-founders of Phrasee, another strategist in the industry. So if you want to learn more about tests that matter from people who know even more about it than me, you can check that out on that resources page. Right here, email and cross-channel testing, you're doing it wrong. All right, so also want to give some shout outs to resources that you might find helpful. Women of Email, look for our Facebook community. Really good emails, subscribe immediately. This is a tremendous inspirational resource, and they have a super conference in the spring. It was in Greenville, South Carolina this year, and it might be there again next year, but it also might be in Nashville. So it's definitely going to be someplace cool regardless, and they have a terrific newsletter. And Email Geeks, so it's a Slack group. If you're a Slack user, you just have to go to email.geeks.chat, fill out an application, you can join that community. All 3 of these communities have a code of conduct. These are helpful, resourceful, smart people in the email industry who are not going to attack you. They're not going to tell you your questions are stupid. They're not going to be jerks, or they're going to get bounced right out of the community. These are respectful spaces where everyone is welcome. So I would encourage you to become a part of at least one of these today. All right, so we have 15 minutes. Go grab your lunch, bring your box lunch back here. I'll have stickers down here. I can answer questions down here. And then we're going to pick back up in 15 minutes. 33.5 minutes left to tie this up in a bow. Thank you for the tweets. Thank you mostly for the person who quoted my Lizzo lyric. I thought of that when I was doing my hair this morning. Again, the URL for all the assets and the workbook, iterable.com/DSTPA. And we're going to tie it up in a bow here with our friend Gaspar. What have we been moving toward? And our takeaways when it comes to best practices, and what a big heaping pile of BS they can be. All right, so we're going to talk about who we admire as email marketers. Now, there's one brand that comes up over and over and over in conversations in email communities, like, oh, I wish I could do stuff like them. That is cool. That is rad. And I would love for you to take a guess at who that is, but also if you want to shout out like any brands that you admire, that you are drawing inspiration from, that you love, that all of us could subscribe to and share in your inspiration. So who wants to tell me who they admire or who they think I'm talking about? Yes? Pardon? Spirit Air. I haven't subscribed to them. What do you love about Spirit Air? Lots of spicy personality and subject lines. Cool branding. Okay, you wish you could do it. Okay, what's another brand that you love? I know your mouths are full, but
Sling does a great job with their slinger campaigns.
Sling?
They don't do the emailing, but talking about branding, I'm sure they have email campaigns out there because they're our customers.
Okay, so we think Sling is probably good because their other marketing is outstanding. It's just like casual language, really fun. Is that what is great about it?
Well, they're like playing on words with being a swinger.
Oh, swing or sling. It's
They do a play on words with being a swinger.
so it's a little suggestive, eh? A little risque talking about swingers. This is a family program. I didn't even say BS. Okay, what are some other brands that you think are amazing and you wish you could do what they're doing? Anyone over on this side?
Netflix.
Netflix?
They do a really good job at like understanding your preferences and then making suggestions and kind of getting you invigorated with their own brand of movies.
So Netflix suggestions based on your behavioral data, your implied preferences, and your express preferences. I've heard that from a number of people, and maybe they understand your preferences better than mine. I like horror, and they keep sending me comic, romance, comedy type things, and it's not my thing, but maybe that's my fault. I don't know. All right, one more. Who? AppSumo? AppSumo. And the guy who runs that company is famous for something, and I can't remember. Part? Neville somebody. All right, so AppSumo. So subscribe to these if you want to share in the inspiration of your fellow geeks here today. I'm going to tell you, though, the brand that I hear about the most from email marketers. Who is subscribed to Chubbies? It's a shorts company. We're in Florida, right? Chubbies does crazy stuff in the inbox. Right? They are breaking every rule when it comes to the from name and the subject line and the pre-header, like all kinds of stuff. Sad prophecy guy at chubbies.com. No space barman, Pac-Man, body paint guy, right? And all these weird subject lines. The end is near, right? It'd be cooler if you got this free cooler. Right? So they're not doing what we expect email marketers to do in the inbox. And they don't even hire models that we'd expect to see in marketing. We've got these guys. They don't even use call to action buttons. They've got big, bold text for calls to action and sexy guys like this and that. That's the guy who does inbox zero. Just kidding. But I would totally go on a date with him. Because this is America, and they are going to break the rules. We have freedom here, right? And they are maverick marketers. They do what they want. And it gets us excited. We're like, oh, they're the bad boys and the bad girls of email marketing. Oh, I wish it could be me. I have such a crush on them, right? We love those types of characters in film and in books. And Chubbies is like the email marketing embodiment of bad boy. So when it comes to best practices, I personally believe that there are only two that we need to worry about. And any kind of best practice that's worth a darn rolls up under one of these two categories. Number one, be legal. Don't break the law. What is the law? That is for your legal counsel to advise. Not an attorney, can't tell you, but do it, be legal. Secondly, be relevant. Or, as my friend Perry at Phrasee, he's the CEO of Phrasee, the AI company I mentioned, he said being relevant is hard. It's really difficult. So at the very least, we just need to strive to not be irrelevant, right? And anything that really matters, that covers it, pretty much. So when you come across best practices and advice and different articles about studies and so forth, It's great inspiration, but take it all with a grain of salt, bae. And challenge convention. In a world full of princesses, dare to be a hot dog. And even the best practices can be broken, and Chubbies is evidence of that. And there are some other brands that are taking risks in the inbox. We can't all be Chubbies, right? We can't break every single rule all of the time. It would be chaos. It would be ineffective. But every now and then, we can push those boundaries. We can try something new, even if it flies directly in the face of the advice that we hold true. So don't be afraid to take some risks. Like, we need some room to fail and experiment. Like, we're all worried about being safe and making sure we don't screw up our job, but failure is a part of this evolution. We've got to take some risks and try some things out to learn and evolve and do better. And so you need to be empowered to have a few fails here and there. You just have to minimize their impact. All right, so we are back in the home stretch, and we're going to talk about personalization. Oops, I screwed up that animation. We're going to get in the Goldilocks zone. I just can't get it to work, can I? Here it is. It coming? Is it not coming? Get in the Goldilocks zone. Right? That was supposed to be like the Twilight Zone. I screwed it up completely. It's the practical path to personalization. All right, so why do we want to personalize our email marketing? We want to maximize engagement, right? We saw that survey from Forrester that told us that it helps us retain our subscribers so our list grows faster. Most companies believe that personalization is going to lead to growth. However, the majority of us feel really strapped and incapable of maximizing our personalization opportunities. We don't have the resources to really knock it out of the park. Email marketers are smart people. A lot of the things I told you here today, you already knew. I'm just trying to give you a few little extra nuggets above and beyond that. But the frustration that we all feel is like, in a perfect world, I would do this, I would do that. Like, you already have a million ideas of what you want to do, what you could do in a perfect world if you had all the resources in the world, but you don't. So what can you do with what you have now, and what could you do if you can make a case for some resources that you need in the near and long-term future? And when it comes to personalization, there are some mistakes that I see over and over and over. So I just want to point them out in case you're making them or on track to make one of them. Personalization mistake number 1, irrelevant relevance. So what you think is personalization, is that actually personalization to the recipient? Have you put yourself in their shoes? An example of this is I was working with a luxury automotive manufacturer, and they were very excited about open time personalization. So this is when images are dynamically changed at the moment of open to further tailor the content. So this could be based on the device that it's rendering on, time of day, it could be weather conditions or the stock market, geo, any number of things could drive a real-time swap of the image so that it maximizes relevancy in that moment. And one of the things that you can do with this is you can also, in real time, present social feeds. And this automotive manufacturer was really proud of their Instagram account, and they were like, okay, we want to do real-time, open-time personalization. And so when you open up our newsletter, at the bottom, you're going to see the latest 3 images from our Instagram feed, because that's personalization in open time. And I was like, okay. Your demographic is white guys over 50? Are they on Instagram? Do you think that's a good use of your budget and time to put an Instagram feed in your newsletter? And they're like, yeah, definitely, and off they went. The second one is hyper-personalization. Personalization is important, right? We want things to be relevant. They want them to be meaningful and useful to the person receiving them, but sometimes there's a breaking point in which the level of effort is no longer justified. So it needs to be just personalized enough to get the result that we want. And anything beyond that breaking point could kind of be a waste of time and resources. So I was working with a company in the travel industry, and they had a lot of people who were big fans of their brand and would come back again and again for vacations of various sorts. And they had loads and loads and loads of data points and a big, giant budget. These are the people who could do anything they wanted with their email marketing, and so they did. But they took it to an extreme. They were trying to tailor email messages so that the hero image was representative of the recipients, like their age, their gender, their racial demographic, their family makeup, and every single data point that they could think of that they had accessible. They wanted to swap out the language and the content, and this was very time intensive. This was a high level of effort. This was a lot of work. And there was a point in which it didn't matter. It's like it needs to be this personalized to get the result, but everything else, you're just spinning your wheels. You're just doing it because you can. Now, this isn't a common problem yet because we don't usually have that kind of budget and access to that many actionable data points. But once you get there, be cautious of that. Just personalized enough so that you can use your time wisely and your resources wisely to maybe have more campaigns rather than one extremely hyper-personalized campaign. And then the third problem I see is big effort, small scale. So I was working with a big brand in Canada, and they said, okay, so we have this idea for a personalized campaign. Here's what we're going to do. People who are members of our loyalty program, when they buy a bike, we're going to send them a message. It's like, hey, you bought a bike. We want you to get a helmet and a bike pump and maybe a little bell and a basket, and here's an offer so that you can get it at a discount. They're like, cross-sell, it's personalized, right? What do you think? And I was like, you sell bikes? I didn't even know that was a product they carried. It's not something they're known for. It's not a major product category. So let's take all of their transactions and let's look at their loyalty customers and let's look at the number of people that are buying bikes that they have an email address on, and then they wanted to test subject lines, then they wanted to test the offer amount. So we're gonna send a message to like 12 people a month, right? That's a lot of work. Why don't we instead identify what are your top 3 product categories and what can we do that's a little simpler, that's gonna have a bigger reach as a starting point. And that bike campaign is not a bad idea, it's just not something that we should start with. That should be something that we're moving toward. So let's start simply so we can maximize this opportunity and maximize the amount of revenue it can generate. There's one other problem with personalization. Creeps us out sometimes. And I'm working on some new content related to creep factor. You would not believe the industry that has figured out the solution to creep factor. It's porn. So that's why that content is still a work in progress. How do I make it family friendly? So come back next year for that presentation. All right, so back to the Goldilocks zone. I'm not going to get into all of these details, but we all know the story Goldilocks and the 3 bears. You know, Mama Bear's bed was too soft, Papa Bear's bed was too hard, Baby Bear's was just right, porridge too hot, too cold, just right. So basically the point here is we want to find that perfect personalization opportunity that's just right. It's Goldilocks approved, right? She came in and stole everything from the bears. So there's 3 steps to personalization, the practical path to personalization, and it starts with data, right? What data is available to you and actionable now for personalizing your campaigns? What is already in your email service provider's database that you can dynamically pull in? What's available to you on external data sources that you could integrate? You know, could you have an API call? Can you have some kind of an FTP upload? What is available to you now? Is it profile data, behavioral data, purchase history? What do you have? What do you have now? What can you have later? And then you can think about external data that might be relevant. Do weather conditions affect your email marketing? Would that be helpful? I know a lot of you are travel industry here. Weather makes a lot of sense. Geo, location data? What device are they accessing your email on? So think about, what do you have that you can use now? What could you maybe use later? What could you do in a perfect world? And then we want to identify our personalization opportunities. Now, what I like to do is to think about all the things I could do in a perfect world, even the bad ideas in an imperfect world, and then rate them, plot them on a chart like this by return on investment and level of effort. So I'm going to show you some examples of personalization, and then we'll go through the process of trying to plot them on this chart. It's just, these are fictional examples. If you wanted to apply these types of strategies, where you plot them on this chart would be unique to you, your company, your budget, and so forth. So I have referenced abandoned cart a little bit here. It tends to be your highest ROI campaign if you do have a cart, if you are e-com. So it's kind of a no-brainer, in my opinion. It can be complicated, though, and expensive, especially if you've got images of products in cart, or you're calculating the totals and so forth. So where would we put that on this chart? Level of effort is significant, but ROI is awesome. So here's where it might be for you or for a fictional company. Year in review campaigns are hot. These have been a pretty big thing since like 2016. People were obsessed with the one that Spotify put out in December 2016. And we see different variations of this. Lots of companies have implemented this since then. But like, what songs were you listening to the most? What day of the week were you listening? What genre did you love? People love these because it's all about you and your behaviors and your interests. And so these really took off, and even Iterable got in on the game. So December, we sent a year in review message to our customers, like, here's how many campaigns you sent. Here's how many tests you did. Here's how many workflows you built and reports you pulled and so forth. So even B2B can apply this strategy. However, the level of effort can be significant. This is a one-off campaign. This isn't automated like abandoned cart. It's not something that's always running. It's one and done. So it's a high level of effort to pull in all that data, to create the campaign and send it out. So does it make sense for you to do it? Maybe. Maybe not. Maybe your time would be better spent on something else. So it might be kind of a low return on investment, but it depends on you, your brand, and your strategy. The first time that Southwest Airlines did a year in review campaign, they only sent it to their top tier loyalty customers, and they loved it. People loved it. It was terrific. They loved it so much, they started talking about it. And then their other loyalty members who were not high enough in the tier to receive it, they got mad. And they started calling up Southwest Airlines demanding email marketing, right? They didn't see that coming. That was kind of an inconceivable outcome to this. So for them, it was an amazing and beneficial strategy. And for some other brands, the same. But is it right for everyone? Maybe, maybe not. So think about where it would belong on that chart, if that's something you're giving consideration to. I'm going to call this campaign an enhanced transactional campaign. I was off to I think it was Columbus, Ohio, to see a client, and the day that I was checking into my hotel, I got a message from them with this cool personalized image. Nobody calls me Jennifer, so that kind of sucked, but they didn't know that. But it's neat, right? It's that swinging hang tag. It's got my name on it. It's animated. This is some cool factor, right? And that's terrific. And Embassy Suites has lots and lots of money for campaigns like this. But should you introduce some kind of an interactive, animated, personalized image? Maybe. It depends on how you're using it. But in this case, this was a transactional message. This wasn't even a first transactional message. This was like a second one, just like a friendly reminder. And so is there going to be really quantifiable ROI on something like that? It's more of a surprise and delight kind of campaign. You know, maybe it'll get my attention and I'll be like, oh, that's cool. I love Embassy Suites. I'm going to remain loyal to them because they sent me an animation with my name in it. Probably not. But it's something it's a lovely little touch, but it's not going to be a real profit center or revenue driver. So does it make sense for you? Maybe, maybe not. I'm a fan of like really focusing on where you can make the most impressive gains to start, and then from there think about, now where can I introduce surprise and delight? All right, people get weird when I put brasiers on the screen. Most of us in this room are wearing them, so deal with it. I shop at Her Room because they have specialty bra sizes. And the ladies here know bras are a pain in the butt. They come in a wide range of sizes, and if your band size is smaller or larger than other people, or your cup size is smaller or larger than the average woman, then you find yourself in a pickle, and it can be hard to find certain sizes, and it sucks, and Victoria's Secret is no help, y'all. So you find yourself, once you figure out like your real size, because apparently we're all wearing the wrong size, once you've figured it out, you can go to places like Her Room and get those specialty sizes. So what they've done, this is just a typical promotional message from Her Room that anyone on their list would get, but because I've made a purchase there, I've got purchase history with them, they've added this element at the bottom. Yes, I hid my bra size. You're welcome. With one click, I can see all of the inventory available in my size based on my purchase history. That's unbelievably convenient because we hate clicking through like, oh, that's cute, not available in my size. Oh, that would be really great for my whatever dress. Oh, not available in my size. So this makes me very happy to see all of that very easily. And it's such a subtle little element. And it's built into the template. So it's something that's being utilized every single day. So where would this fall on our little chart here? I think the return on investment could be very significant for this, even though it's just the subtlest little touch. The level of effort, not huge, right? We just need to connect the data point there on purchase history. All right, so who here owns a contouring palette? A few of you. Who has no idea what a contouring palette is? Allow me to explain it to you, sir. All right, so thanks to the Kardashians, we decided that we needed to look like we have duck face without the awkward lips. Right, so cheekbones popping. You can also use a contouring palette to make your giant forehead look shorter, to make your fat chin disappear, right? And make those cheekbones pop, highlight your brow bones, slim your nose. It's an illusion. We are going to trick you thinking we're more beautiful than we actually are. Now, if you've ever purchased one of these palettes, you receive it and it's confusion. Like, what do I do with this? So I received this palette with 6 different shades of brown and beige. And I had to figure out how to arrange it on my face to trick people into thinking that I'm gorgeous. So, the next day, obviously I was frustrated, like, it just looked like I've got like a bad sunburn or something. So the next day I got this email from Ulta. So I'd purchased it online from Ulta, and the very next day I got a message that was like, hey, here's what you do with those 6 different shades of brown and beige to arrange them on your face the correct way. We've hired this model and a makeup artist to show you how it's done. Also, you might find it handy to purchase some more products. That'll make you even better looking if you have the right brush to use with your contouring palette. And I don't know for a fact if this is the case, but I suspect the reason is that a lot of people were returning these palettes because they are difficult to use, they're not for everyone, and they're very expensive. And if a lot of people are returning palettes that are like 40 to 80 bucks, they're losing money. So this was an excellent opportunity to mitigate that. So this was a very specific campaign, right? This was very high level of effort for a single product category, which was trendy, but probably not one of their top product categories. And so the level of effort was high. The expense was high, but it did have a specific business objective, I believe, and it probably accomplished that. So would this kind of a campaign make sense for your brand? It's this specific? Maybe, maybe not. Depends on your budget, your objectives, and so forth. So I've got that kind of like way out to the side there in terms of level of effort, because level of effort looks real high to me there. And also personalization by device is possible. And I've mentioned this a couple of times, and you've seen this example already, but what I didn't explain to you was that there was a different experience depending on where you accessed this email. Did you open it up on your computer, on your laptop or your desktop? Did you open it up on a mobile device? And our objective was to connect people with admissions. This was that higher ed campaign. You showed interest in an educational program. We want to talk to you about it. We haven't talked yet, and so we need you to opt back in for TCPA compliance so that we can keep calling you. However, the majority of our marketing was being opened on smartphones. And believe it or not, smartphones can be used to make phone calls. Right? So there was an opportunity here to connect the dots, to not just ask people to opt back in for us to outbound call you so that you can continue to ignore our calls. You know, you could call us. So if you opened the message on a smartphone device during business hours when admissions was open, this click to call button would appear. And you could inbound dial directly, confirm your interest, and they could determine whether they wanted to push you toward the application. This was the simplest little idea, and it was responsible for 35% of our conversions on this campaign. So personalization by device is very cool. You also will see it if you want to drive people to like an app store. If you have an app, you'll see it sometimes in newsletters. I really have to update this example because like Windows phones, not a thing anymore. But you know, if you open it up on an Android device, Google Play, you open it up on an iPhone, you know, App Store. There should be a unique experience based on the individual and how they're accessing it. So if you wanted to implement something like this, where might it exist? For a newsletter, driving people to an app, maybe like right in those crosshairs, right? Could be different for you. All right, so where is the Goldilocks zone? There she is, right here. So those are our 3 best opportunities for personalization that we want to proceed with implementing. So how do we make a plan for that? All right, here's our Goldilocks approved promotional template. Like I mentioned, we need that purchase history data to be integrated and accessible by our email service provider or our cross-channel campaign solution or our growth marketing platform. And we need to update the creative. So we can make a plan for that. Like, okay, how long is it going to take to get the data connected? How long is it going to take to get the creative finished? And when can we go live? And then plot it out on a roadmap. And then maybe after we try it out at the bottom, that little one click, see all the inventory in your size, maybe you want to see how it works at the top of the template too. So maybe, you know, farther out later in the year, we want to experiment with a test or try it out up there. So you can make a plan for that optimization effort as well. All right, we talked about abandoned cart, high ROI, Goldilocks approved. What do we need for abandoned cart? Well, we need to get our website data, make it actionable to our email campaigns, right? Integrate that. We need creative. This could be a high level of effort depending on how personalized this is and the like image assets you need and the descriptions and such that you need. And then we had that device-specific newsletter feature. If you open it up on Android, you have one experience. You open it up on an iPhone, you have a different experience. So what do we need there? Might need a third-party solution like Movable Ink or Live Clicker who can do those open-time personalization, swapping out the images in real time. And we need to add the creative to our template. So boom, we've got a year-long roadmap now for implementing the personalization strategies that make the most sense. And then maybe in a few months we revisit this and we think about, oh, well, do we want to now expand that roadmap and figure out where we can introduce some of these other ideas? Do we want to identify some new opportunities and go through this exercise with those? That roadmap can be a living document that's always evolving. And I'll tell you, this is like the secret to job security. You never run out of things to do as an email marketer. And if you're showing the boss, like, I have a plan, and here's what we're going to do, and I have mapped it out for 18 months, for 24 months, and I'm updating it every quarter, every 6 months, right? That's cool. That's exciting. That makes you look like you're on it, right? There are strategists charging $200 an hour to do this for you. I've just given away all their secrets. You're welcome. All right, so these are the boring takeaways. You can read these in the download of the deck. But I do want to talk about iteration in email. And I know I keep using abandoned cart as an example, and it doesn't apply to everyone, but this concept of iteration applies to all of us. As I said earlier, we get these ideas of what we would do in a perfect state campaign, and then we kind of go, but I can't. Like, I don't have the resources necessary to do that. But I would encourage you to then step back and go, well, what can I do I've identified an opportunity, what can I do to fill that gap while I move toward that perfect state campaign that I've conceived in my head? And we looked at this example from Bonobos earlier, but what is so interesting about it is that it's just the simplest little trigger, right? We don't see what products are in the cart. There's no images. There's no tallies of the price. It's just a trigger based on a behavior. Cart's abandoned, you got the email. Every day that an email campaign is not live is a day that it's not making money for you. So if it's the simplest little thing, it's not perfect. Is it abiding by the best practices for abandoned cart? It's not personalized enough but it's filling the gap for now. And you can move towards something more sophisticated. So man in a chicken suit, get your attention, it's better than nothing. Then you can move toward V2. So in this example, we've got an image of the product. We've got the name of the product, right? So we've stepped up our personalization. Is this the most stellar example of email marketing on the planet? No. Does it get the job done? Absolutely. So we've stepped up the personalization just a notch. And then we can be aspiring toward something like this. This is sophisticated. This is complex abandoned cart. We've got beautiful design, lovely branding. We've got an image of the product. We've got the name of the product. We've got the color. We've got the size. We've got the price. And we're calculating the total of the cart. This is hard to do. And if this is what you're conceiving that you want to do, and then you're like, oh, I just can't, it's too hard, well, you're not doing yourself any favors. So what can you do now? And you can move toward this in the future. You can build a case for this level of sophistication with wins with less complicated versions of this. And then once you've got all that out of the way, then you can do really cool surprise and delight things. This is an abandoned browse campaign. So they've got their abandoned cart in place, but there's this really trendy shoe at Adidas, and based on your browse history, they want to trigger this message. So we've got animation. It's a single product. We've got social proof and images from Instagram and all this great stuff. But it doesn't make sense to put together a campaign like this when you haven't done the other ones first. Getting back to that list of ideas that you are no doubt compiling on page 3, hopefully you've got a long list. If you jump ahead to page 7, you'll see that everything that you put on page 3 is now repeated on page 7, right? This is 7. I believe so. So what you can do here, this is interactive document, everything is numbered there, right? And you can cross-reference and put those numbers on the grid and plot it out. How does each of the ideas that you took away today, how reasonable are they? What would your anticipated level of effort be and return on investment be? And where is your Goldilocks zone? So that you can make, I'm messing up all my animations today. Bounce for me, lady. There she is. So that you can make your roadmap and go back and say, I got value out of Digital Summit. And did you know people get paid $200 an hour to do this? You're welcome. So there you have it, the money shot. So it's not just personalization that you can roadmap, it's every single idea that you take away from this session and every other session that you attend this week or at any event. You can take that handy-dandy PDF with you anywhere. All right, so we've got a few minutes here to talk about the future of email. Is anyone prioritizing accessibility standards in your email yet? No. Yes. What is your vertical now? You can't say? So we're seeing companies that are prioritizing accessibility in email, well, not even companies necessarily, but government is actually leading the way here because it's mandated by law that their marketing be accessible. We're seeing it in healthcare. And it's getting some traction as a best practice. That inclusivity is becoming more and more important, and we want everyone to be able to access our email. Level of effort can be high to make email marketing accessible. Email on Acid is a company I mentioned earlier. They've got great thought leadership on this, on how to make email marketing so that it's great for people with vision impairments. It's great for people with neurological disorders. And how can you make it jive with like screen readers and make it effective for all? So if that's something that you're interested in, check out Email on Acid. We talked about that example from Blue Apron of interactivity in email. Sometimes it's called kinetic email. But any interactive email is whenever we have website-like elements in an email that we don't usually find there. And it can be the simplest thing. It can be as simple as a hamburger menu is interactivity in email. Carousel of images is interactivity in email. Having forms that you can fill out in the inbox and submit without leaving the inbox. That's interactivity. We could even use it for things like abandoned cart and transaction, just like we saw for Blue Apron. AI, like we hear, like in December, January every year, all of the digital marketing trends and predictions come out, and every year there's like all these pundits that are like, yeah, artificial intelligence, that's where it's at. If you haven't adopted AI, you're gonna be left in the dust because it's the future, y'all. Who's using AI right now? 3 of you, right? And that is awesome and amazing, but AI is in its infancy, y'all. Right? It can move the needle in some meaningful ways, but we're still figuring it out. And it is pretty rudimentary at this point in time, and it's just the earliest adopters who are jumping on the bandwagon. So if you're not using AI yet, it's totally cool. Don't stress. You will eventually. It's going to become mainstream. It's going to become a part of like all the solutions that you're using, but we've got a lot of strides to make. I actually did a webinar about AI not too long ago, and I mean, AI can be very biased. AI is not super smart yet, but it is useful, and the best example I've seen of AI in email marketing so far is from my friends at Phrasee that I have mentioned already. Phrasee uses AI to write subject lines and other short text like SMS marketing, push notifications, Facebook remarketing ads. So a human will write some text, and then the AI, based on your brand voice and all of your historic data and text that you've used previously, it will write other versions for testing. So here is a really cool example. Domino's is one of their biggest clients, and so a human marketer wrote this subject line, "Turn up the heat with the brand new Mexican Fiesta." And then Phrasee's AI wrote the rest of these. And there are puns, there are emojis, and all of it is authentic to the Domino's voice. And that is really cool. So the Phrasee system is calculated like you need 10 different variations of this subject line for this sized audience that has this size typical open rate. So here the system creates them for you because it is really hard to write 10 different versions. So the AI writes it for you, human writes one. Which one of these do you think is the winning subject line? Does anyone want to guess? Top one? The human one is a guess. I think the top one was a guess. You've been served Domino's New Mexican Fiesta. You want a pizza this? All right, did someone say the second one? No? Third one? Fourth one? The shortest one. New and super tasty Mexican Fiesta. Any other guesses? All right, I'm going to reveal it to you. This is the first audience to ever get it right. You've been served Domino's New Mexican Fiesta. You want a pizza this? Right, that won, and Phrasee predicted that it was going to win, and usually Phrasee gets the ranking right. Sometimes it's off a little bit here and there. The human written subject line came in 9th. So this is like evidence that when we do a correct A/B test, that we cannot predict the winner. Our biases have escaped us, and we just don't really know. But Phrasee knows. So if you're interested in a demo from Phrasee, sign up for that. It's fascinating, honestly. And it's not as expensive as you would think, but it's not for everyone. Like, you do need a sizable database to make it worth your while. But at the very least, if you sign up for their newsletter, you get a lot of really interesting content that's applicable to any email marketer. Yes, I have gotten very friendly with the folks over there. All right, I've got 2 minutes left to talk about newsletters. So I'm going to skip ahead and get to the heart of it real quickly. This is like one of the first electronic newsletters in history. There was a bomb recipe in there. We don't have time to talk about that, though. I love, though, at the bottom there, they've got like a disclaimer, like, if you make a bomb, it's on you, dude. Not an attorney. This is like my whole history lesson. All these slides are available in that download, so you can get acquainted with it. 99 Designs and Zapier, rhymes with happier. They're clients of ours, and we actually interviewed them at our conference last year. There's a video of that about newsletter trends from their perspective if you want to see that. I should add it to that landing page. I will try to remember to do that. If I don't and you want to see that video, ask me for the link. First ever newsletter, Belfast newsletter. This is the 1700s versus this year. It doesn't look terrific, but it is newsletter history. Let me get to the trends. Faster. Here we go. Number 1, niche, right? We can't be all things to all people. Newsletters have gotten extremely specific, and in the case of Washington Post and media companies, and even non-media companies, they could literally have dozens of different newsletters. So rather than trying to have one thing that fits all, relevance. Like, what is it specifically that you're interested in? And if you have a very specific product or something that's very niche, then maybe one size does fit all for your audience. But for others of you, it would probably make sense to have multiple versions of the newsletter. Number 2, personality. Fresh language. Speak to people like they're people, even if you're B2B. I'm going to talk about this a lot more tomorrow afternoon. I think it's 2:40 on this stage. So we'll talk about copy in email marketing. This is fascinating to me. Calls to action are missing from a lot of email newsletters. It doesn't mean you should necessarily get rid of them if you're using them, and I only see this trend in newsletters. But you can see these are all text links with like no call to action button. And that's like a big best practice, have a call to action button. This seems to be the exception. The trend is moving away from them, and I think it's because of increased productivity. It's easier to create that campaign and test it and get it out the door, especially if you're doing a daily newsletter, if you don't have to worry about things like testing your bulletproof buttons and so forth. And that's also driving this trend towards streamlined design. Typically, newsletters these days, it's a single column, it's fluid in width, it's adjusting to the screen. We're not seeing a whole lot of images, right? Because productivity is definitely a priority when it comes to like you have a high level of content that you need to get out on the regular basis. Your bandwidth is a factor. And if it's working, it's working. And then finally, no content, no problem. You do not have to be the originator of all of the content that you're highlighting in your newsletter. Curated content is hot, and there are a number of newsletters out there that the majority of the content is not coming from their site. The goal of the newsletter is to keep the brand name top of mind, to provide value to the recipient, to build a relationship with them, right? It's not necessarily to drive traffic and conversions, and that's why curated content is fine. So if you think it's appropriate for your audience, why not share it with them? All right, so that's all I've got for you today, Tampa. You've been super friendly. I love being in the South. Please come see me tomorrow. It was great to meet you. If you want a sticker, I got some. If you've got questions, come ask me. Enjoy the rest of Digital Summit.